Hello, everyone. Welcome. It is Monday night. It is time for revolutionary change. I'm Jen Perelman.
I'm Peter Hager. How are you, Jen?
I'm in a good mood.
Really?
I am.
Why are you in a good mood? That doesn't seem you.
I know. I know.
But
I got a new house. I got a house.
Oh, that's good. That's a good reason. I would say that.
I got a little cottage in the woods.
Well, cabin in the woods, cottage in the woods.
Yeah, it's not really a cabin. It's a little house, but it's in the woods. It's very cute.
Well, if you're happy, that's a good thing. So that
Yes.
means you might actually have a decent show tonight. So.
Yeah, that's what it's because. It's because
we'll always have a good show as a result. Yeah. Whose congressional district are you going to be residing? Jen, you're leaving Marjorie Taylor. I mean, you're leaving Debbie Wasserman Schultz for who?
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
So there you go. And just remember,
it is coincidental. Like I'm not moving here because of Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's a coincidence.
I like how you have to preface that with I'm not doing it because I'm enamored with Marjorie Taylor Greene.
No, not at all. I was looking here before I realized it was her district.
Well, here's also something that I think is very important that I want to remind people as to why the Democratic Party has to die, and I believe it will. There are people that support the Democratic Party who actually think that Debbie Wasserman Schultz is a better congressional representative than Marjorie Taylor Greene. And we live in a country where people really think like that. That's unfortunate, but I'd like to think times are a-changing. What do you think?
Well, I think more people are realizing that it's a class war. I think more people are understanding that this is haves versus the majority of have-nots. And I think that the elitist condescension vibe of the Democrat Party is very off-putting to most people, which leads me to believe that people are waking up to the fact that it's a class thing.
Yeah, I definitely concur. I also think that people are kind of uniting in a way that we have never really seen before. I think in many ways it's somewhat inevitable. And what I mean by that is we have been, politically speaking, at each other's throats for several decades now. There are many times that you could point to and say that this was the inflection point that kind of created this whole mess. But I would say above all others that really created the ultimate divide in this country was the 2000 election, illegitimate election of George W. Bush. And that, I think, really split the country. I know everyone would say that it was the Clinton trial and all that. No, Clinton was a criminal in a million different ways. They just found the lowest hanging fruit that they know that would rile the most people up on it. That's all it really was. But the fact of the matter is Al Gore won that presidential election. The Supreme Court decided to stick their nose where it didn't belong. And if it meant that we had to either do the election again or just have an outright recount in the state of Florida, which we all know Katherine Harris, who should be in federal prison for the rest of her life, she did what she did for political opportunism purposes. She did everything in her capacity to make sure there was not a recount in Florida. And it was proven in the year 2002 that Al Gore did, in fact, win the state and won the presidency. And I do think that in many ways is kind of what set off the divide. And what we've seen ever since then for the past 25 years is everything is about, it's the gays or it's the fascists and the racists and this and that. All the while, let's not talk about the fact that we have a broken economic and political system. And I think we're living in a time now where people are starting to recognize exactly where it comes from. And a lot of people are starting to recognize that it's an Israel problem in a lot of ways.
Yeah. I mean, I see what JG's saying. It is a race thing. Well, capitalism is a race thing. It's all inherently a very white supremacist system that we're in, and it is all connected. I do get that. But in terms of where we need to show solidarity in order for this to ever change in any way, that's a class thing. That's a class thing, because that's the people that are in our same boat. I understand it's a race thing as far as the problems that we're dealing with and what's used. But when we're looking at who is in the boat together against the establishment and against the oligarchy, that's a class thing. The race thing is on top of that is used as for all different reasons. But yeah, at the end of the day, when we're talking about a revolution, it's a class-based revolution. Yeah, that's it. That's what I say about that.
And stop saying the other half of the country is racist. It's not true. I live in the Deep South. Now, I do live amongst racists. They're here, but the projection of supposing that everyone that bleeds red, if you will, is a racist is not true. It's not true at all. Just like
where I am is a very good example of that. So yes, this is Trump country.
Sure.
This is Trump country. It absolutely is. And I know that there's that shit here, but for every one of those types of people, I've met 100 people that are the friendliest, nicest, just really decent people here. And it is very warm and it is very comfortable. And it's, yeah. So I'm not saying that doesn't exist. That's not the majority.
And I would also remind people that if you remember a couple of years ago, the Leah Thomas story became front page news. Now, I have been very adamant that no, I do not believe that anatomic or biological men should be competing against women in athletics, especially anything that involves combat. With that being said, you picked the one person out of how many tens, if not hundreds of millions of people to hone in on and make that your central story for how many months? And you had it from both sides who don't see on the one hand that it's not a good thing. And then those on the other hand who like the swimmer, I'm forgetting her, the blonde, who's made a career out of it now off of that one thing. It shows you how relevant she is because I don't even remember her name. The point is living wage, healthcare. We're going to get into all this with Zeynab when she gets here at 8 o'clock. But just remember, if you're not talking about economics, you're not talking about anything, because the racial constructs, the social constructs, everything is related to whether or not you can afford to put food on the table. And there are too many people who just tend to forget that that is the biggest issue.
No, the biggest issue is capitalism. That's the biggest issue.
You like to remind me of that constantly. I know.
Yes, I do. Because the name of the channel is Revolutionary Change. And that's a basic premise of that concept. Yes.
Now, as we've pointed out, Israel is definitely the central focus. It is what Riley Gaines. Yes, that's right. That's her name. There is a reason why we have to constantly hone in on this. And this is going to be a two-part story. But the first one, because I want to get this lady's name right. I'm not seeing it right. God, why? Oh, it was a trending story like 2 seconds ago. Now they pulled it. The point is that I want to get this lady's name correct, who's in the Knesset, who decided to go after Netanyahu Milikowski.
Okay, so let's do like a little bit of context.
Sure.
So you just dive right in. Okay, so set up the story. It doesn't really matter the name yet, and give like what this is, what the setting is, what's happening here. You know,
we've been under this illusion for quite some time that there is a difference between liberal Zionism and conservative Zionism, and really they're one and the same. And so what you're going to now see, which is going to become a lot more common as we go forward, because everybody knows, and we're going to have a fun segment at the end of the show tonight that I just came across, assuming we can get it in higher quality, of Mark Levin having another mental breakdown about the fact that people don't love Israel anymore. And he doesn't know what to do with himself. He actually went on kind of like a psychotic break in the process. So what they're going to attempt to do, especially the liberal Zios, led by the likes of, believe it or not, Bernie Sanders, and we're not letting up on that, that if we just get rid of Netanyahu Milikowski, that Israel will all of a sudden become a nation in which people will gleefully accept again. That this is
not so.
Wait,
so where are you going to start? So we're going to go in the order we talked about, right?
The Knesset. So there was a blow up at the Knesset earlier today, and it is pretty obvious that They are now attempting, I don't know if it's a coup, but whatever they are attempting to do, the citizens of Palestine, calling it Israel, have decided in Tel Aviv that they don't want to deal with this anymore because they realize that the walls are closing in and they're looking for a scapegoat. They're looking for an off-ramp. So naturally, they're going to blame Netanyahu. And here's what happened at the Knesset earlier today.
אני מאשימה אותך, בנימין נתניהו. מאשימה אותך בטבח 7 באוקטובר. האסון הגדול ביותר שידעה המדינה קרה במשמרתך. גם אם אתה ישן עם מצפון.
Just look at how he sits there with his...
He couldn't care less. He could not care less what she's saying. Also, if their sort of legislation system is pretty similar to ours in that there's a lot of theater involved. So whether or not this woman, and I do not know who this is legitimate resistance or controlled opposition, or it's all theater, I don't know. So for all we know, this is the same type of thing that we get with like Nancy Pelosi ripping up the paper, ripping up the speech. It's performative, but we don't know if this is a real opposition or not. That's the truth. We don't know.
I would like to think, and again, I can't make any assumptions. The lady's name is Naama Lazimi.
Okay.
Naama Lazimi is the
because where has she been for the past 2 years is my question.
Of course. Like I said,
so that's my point. Where has she been?
Yeah. And that's exactly why I believe that the reason this is becoming an issue now where they're trying to pin it on him is because they know that the walls are closing in. They know that people do not want to deal with them anymore. And above everything else, much as the story we brought to you guys a couple of weeks ago about how Turkey basically bankrupted Israel's entire steel industry, this is probably becoming a really serious economic situation for millions of people. And they don't know what the hell to do. They're basically on a sinking ship, but they have nowhere to go because no one wants them, aside from the very wealthy who are figuring out a way to get to either Cyprus or to Argentina.
Well, and I think that it's even more than that, in that these people realize that this is very good. This could be the end of their state. Now, I am of the belief that it is the end of their state, that they're just like the Walking Dead. But these people are now realizing that they're going to lose their state.
Yeah.
I think that it isn't, yes, it's the economy, but the economy and these things have been very bad for the past 2 years, pretty consistently. But so they somehow are starting to sense that this is wrapping up and it's not going to end well for the existence of their state. That's what I think.
I think you're right. And it's going to get, look, that these are going to be regular occurrences. But remember, when you're a total psychopath, like Netanyahu Milikowski is, that's why he sits there with his arm draped over a chair.
Oh, he doesn't give a shit.
This ain't no thing. This ain't no thing. That's how he sees it. Until eventually it is. Defiance or pride is greatest before the fall. So we'll see.
נקי, לא נשכח לך, נזעק את ההפקרה, תקום ועדת חקירה ממלכתית. אני מאשימה אותך, בנימין נתניהו, במימון החמאס, בבניית הטרור, ועצימת העיניים האיום הקיומי עלינו, בהפקרת ביטחון המדינה כמדיניות. ביטחון הוא לא אינסטרומנט פוליטי, שמעת? הוא מעל הכל. אני מאשימה אותך, נתניהו, הפכת את הציבור העובד והמשרת לחמורו של משיח. יצרת את ברית ההשתמטות והסיפוח. גבורת הלוחמים נעלמה מעיניך, אבל לא מעינינו.
There is nothing brave whatsoever about what the IDF has done.
Nothing.
They are mass murderers of children.
Yeah. They're fighting unarmed people. There is absolutely nothing remotely brave about that. It seems to me that the majority of problems that they have is running over their own incendiary devices, because they're so proud about fighting an unarmed population of children.
The despicable nature of these people thinking that I'm going to grandstand in front of the Knesset, but then I'm going to slip in our brave soldiers who
Right.
murdered and pillaged and raped, actually raped women and children and men too. Hey, equal opportunist. You know what I'm saying? Grape. I said grape with a G. I didn't actually say the R word. Just remember, in case YouTube's listening.
But that's what I'm saying. So the fact that she's also fitting in these sort of nationalistic talking points, it shows that she was sent forward from whatever party, group, faction, sect she represents to send out the message to the world that we see that Benjamin Netanyahu is a problem, but we're still a great country. And that's the message. These are all her little talking points to get in, because they really do see that the rest of the nations of the world are not having it with them.
אני מאשימה אותך, נתניהו. השחיתות האישית שלך הפכה למכת מדינה. כל מושחת הופך שותף. ככל שיש לך תיק יותר גדול על מישהו, הוא יותר נוח לך. משפט של איש אחד לקח מדינה שלמה כבת ערובה. אני מאשימה אותך, נתניהו, כי שכחת מה זה להיות יהודי. טראמפ החזיר חטופים במקומך, בזמן שאתה, בלי חשומה, התעסקת בלרתום אותו לחנינה. עשרות חטופים נרצחו ונהרגו בשבי, כשאתה לא קיימת את מצוות פדיון שבויים. חסר מצפון ובלי אלוהים.
Yeah, the reason he's like this is because, again, I think it's just, this is the performance. Maybe that's why he's been hanging out with what's his name? Milei in Argentina. It's like, maybe he's already ready to jump out of his golden parachute. This is just sort of the finale that they're put together for our viewing pleasure.
And remember, the biggest reason why guys like him and guys like Milei get these golden parachutes isn't because they destroy their own countries. They do, but they make very few important people even more rich. And in the end, that's really what matters.
Well, so this is sort of like, he knows this is the plan. That's how it almost, this is theater.
Somebody's got to wipe that smirk off of his effing face already.
אני מאשימה אותך, נתניהו, הגזענות תמיד שירתה אותך. קראת אותנו מבפנים. הפכת חצי עם לאויב. אז נתניהו, אני המרוקאית, המסורתית ממגדל העמק אומרת לך, אנחנו נשבור את החומות שבנית. אנחנו ננקה את הרעל ששפכת פה 30 שנה. אנחנו נחזור להיות חברה מאוחדת. אני מאשימה אותך, נתניהו, רוצחים פה אזרחים כאילו הם אבק אדם. משילות, עלק. כשהליכוד מתנהל כמו ארגון פשע, ארגוני הפשיעה מרימים ראש. אני מאשימה אותך, נתניהו, כן, בהקרבת החיים עצמם. אנשים גמורים תחת המציאות הכלכלית. לא יודעים איך להיכנס לסופר ולשלם חשבונות. הכל פה הפך יקר. רק החיים תחתיך הפכו לזולים עד כאב.
Okay, so I also think it's interesting to point out, I think it's done. Is it done?
Yes. Well, this one's done.
Okay. So I think...
Well, one thing I do want to point out, all those tears that they supposedly are shedding, not once did they mention the Palestinian people. Not once.
No, she's sitting there and talking about how they need to go back to the glory of 30 years ago when they were all united. And by they being all united, she means Jewish Israelis. That's what she means by being all united. Like, nothing that she said in any way is regarding unity in terms of the Palestinians. Again, she didn't mention them. So this reeks of staged opposition to me. This reeks of political theater, and his attitude just sitting there just sort of, proves that to me.
Yeah. And it really, it's rich, very rich coming from them, because in the end, there is not going to be an off-ramp for these people.
No.
As much as they think they're going to get one. And as I said, there were two key points in that video that truly stood out. The first one is no condemnation whatsoever of the IDF. In fact, it was, these are heroes. The IDF are heroes. That's what this shitlib Zio had to say at the Knesset. And then,
well, wait a second. But I do think what she was sort of intimating there is that how dare he use these heroes for this, that, you know, like, it's almost like they're only bad because of him. Otherwise, that's the premise. That's like what I was getting from it.
Yeah. And that, of course, to me, says it all. In the end, they're trying to save their own necks. They do not have any remorse or any sympathy for what really is going on, not what did go on, what is still going on. The genocide has not ended. It is still going. New form of cluster bombs, as I pointed out on Saturday. This is only going to get worse, but I do kind of like watching them spiral completely out of control.
Yeah. So, you know, speaking about what she's saying about, we're going to go back without you here, we're going to go back to where we were all unified and together like 30 years ago. So I think that's the good segue into the next sort of part of this story, which is they're going to try to convince the world that this is a one-off. This is just Netanyahu and the Likud, and they're the ones that just took this to, you know, and that's just not the case. So Miko Peled, do you want to like introduce like where this goes from here?
I want you to, if you could, explain to the audience why Bernie Sanders' version of liberal Zionism may not be as evil incarnate as, you know, Netanyahu's form of Zionism, but it's still evil in its own way because of this, equating this idea that if we simply got rid of Milikowski, that we can somehow make Israel great again.
Right. Right. Because Israel, well, and this is something that I see is very parallel to MAGA. You know, Israel was never great. That's the problem. So the problem with the idea of what I guess we're referring to as liberal Zionism is this idea of it's the two-state solution. When I think of liberal Zionism, I think of the people that they believe the Palestinians deserve a state, but they still believe that the Jewish people are entitled to an ethno-state, which by definition is what Zionism is. And that cannot exist without an ethnic cleansing. Ethnic state means you need to have an ethnic cleanse. That's just how this works. So you cannot say, I believe in having a Jewish state and simultaneously care about universal human rights. Those two things are mutually exclusive. So that's the problem, that the liberal Zionism that's not a thing. The entire premise of Zionism is white supremacy and oppression. It's the entire premise of it. That's how it was started. The people who founded it knew that. They spoke about it. Golda Meir knew that they would have to ethnically cleanse, and that was acceptable to them. So no, you cannot have a Jewish state. That cannot exist. It just can't exist.
Miko Peled has been a guest on our channel. He is an exceptional human being in terms of fighting as a ethnic Jewish person from the Middle East who has called out the hypocrisy from day one. In fact, he was a guest on our channel shortly after October 7th, and he kind of laid it out very effectively at that time. But what he did over the weekend was put together this very interesting takedown of Yitzhak Rabin. There is this revisionist history that
yes.
If we just, again, this is where Bernie Sanders and liberal Zionism comes in, and it's such a devastatingly bad ideology. Correct. Because as I've often said, in the current construct of our country, which has been this way for over a generation, Democrats are worse than Republicans because Democrats protect empire much better than Republicans do. Correct. And in the case of liberal Zionism, they protect the genocidal state of Israel much better than psychopaths like Netanyahu, Milikowski, Gavir, Smotrich, and the like Correct. End up doing. And so what Miko is going to explain to all of us right now is why Yitzhak Rabin was never a hero and never should have been regarded as one.
Well, let's just give a little primer to that, because a lot of people might not really know who Yitzhak Rabin was or what that time frame was, but he was considered the peacemaker of the Israeli prime ministers. He was considered to be someone that was really trying to usher in peace and a two-state solution. And there is definitely reason to believe that him wanting to allow for a two-state solution at that point did lead to him being removed, forcibly removed. And so that is part of it. But it is delusional to think that he was actually about peace and was actually on the right side of history. Again, it's that liberal Zionism concept. So in this particular story, Rabin would represent the Democrats and Netanyahu would represent the Republicans, and you're screwed either way. That's the point. But there has been this sort of like revisionist history that somehow he would have been a peacemaker and things would just be fine if that had been, and that they're all sort of now gathering together to team up to push this Netanyahu narrative, because now Netanyahu has his escape plan.
Exactly. Well, here's a friend of the show, Miko Peled, explaining exactly how this all came to be.
Peled, and I'm speaking to you from Palestine House of Freedom here in Washington, D.C. Today is November the 4th, and this is the day people commemorate the assassination of the former Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin. There has been a tendency to portray him as a martyr for peace, as a man who dedicated the second half of his life, or maybe the last portion of his life, to peace, and therefore he was assassinated. So it's time to set the record straight. Yitzhak Rabin was a war criminal. He rose up the ranks of the first of all, the Zionist terrorist militias, and then what became the Israeli army. He was a commander of great importance throughout the years, the first 3 decades of the existence of the Zionist state. And of course, he was the army chief of staff when Israel embarked on its assault against its neighbors in June of 1967.
So right there, Miko is explaining how Yitzhak Rabin was involved in the massacre that was 1967.
Yeah.
Maybe
Exactly.
he was involved in the USS Liberty attack. You never know. No hero.
No, war criminal.
Period.
But after that, he continued to participate in very important positions within the state. And he was Minister of Defense, he was Prime Minister, and so forth. And once again, he participated in some of the worst actions that were perpetrated, the worst crimes that were perpetrated by the state against the Palestinian people. This included, by the way, not only in Palestine, but also in Lebanon. He commanded the siege and the bombing of Beirut during the Israeli invasion of Lebanon. So why is it that people call him a man of peace? Well, it was the Oslo so-called peace accords that he signed as prime minister. And there was a sense that these accords were going to actually lead to peace.
Can you explain the falsehood that is these Oslo Accords?
Well, it's two-state solution. It's a two-state solution. It's never been real. The two-state solution was something that was created, the concept of it, by Zionists to basically manufacture consent to get the Zio state in the first place, with this dangling of, well, you'll have your state too. But it was never meant to be real. And the Zios always intended on going further like they're doing right now in pursuit of greater Israel. So they were never going to have there be a Palestinian state. That was never going to happen. So for the same reasons that liberal Zionism and this idea that Bernie puts out, like Israel still has a right to exist. No, it doesn't. It's fantasy land. But that is the same concept as what we're talking about.
Anyone who is familiar with the Oslo Accords, anyone who actually read the Oslo Accords, realized very quickly that these accords had nothing to do with peace. In fact, as we look at the reality in Palestine today, they are a direct result of the Oslo Accords, because the Oslo Accords afforded the apartheid state a stronger control over Palestine, over the resources, and of the people. And by pretending that Palestinians were given some kind of an autonomy, some kind of a government, it's not a government, it's not autonomy. And even my father, who was also a general in the Israeli military and was very close to Rabin, after the Oslo Accords were signed, or shortly after they were signed, he said very clearly and publicly that Rabin does not want peace, that the Oslo Accords were just another step in controlling the Palestinian people. So why was he assassinated? If he wasn't assassinated because of peace, then why was he assassinated? And I think it's important to understand who the assassin was and where he came from. The assassin he was part of two groups that were disenfranchised by the generation of Rabin. The generation of Rabin, the same part of Israeli society that I come from, is known as the First Israel. So these are the European settlers and the children of the first European settlers that came. They were, of course, privileged. They were, of course, light-skinned. And they really managed the apartheid state and established the apartheid state and ran it for the first few decades. When the Arab Jews were brought to Palestine, to what became Israel, they were treated, of course, as second and third class citizens.
Pause.
They were not provided with an education.
That's still the case. So who he's referring to are the Jews that came from North Africa and from the Arabian Peninsula that were essentially forced out of their homelands in conjunction with the Zionist agenda to force them to go and live in Israel because they needed to have the more numbers. They needed a greater population. This is why they brought in the Ethiopian Jews. This is why they do but they then very quickly treated them all as second-class citizens. They are what the Ashkenazis would refer to as the Mizrahi Jews. They're Mizrahi Jews. And that just basically meant they're brown Jews. That's basically what that meant. And so that's who he's referring to, are these Jews that were forcibly brought in there essentially to add to their numbers because their own states were willing to sell them out along with the Zios because those states are those kingdoms like, Iraq was. Same, that's where these people came from. So, yeah.
And in that respect, race does play a role.
Absolutely.
In fact, they were denied education, they were put in camps, and so on. And of course, the resentment developed over the years. But Yigal Amir, the assassin, was not only from that part of Israeli society, he was also a settler. And the West Bank settlers and the generation of Rabin who like to see themselves as liberal Zionists, there was constant clashing between these two. So the assassin really was a combination of these two disenfranchised groups of Israeli society, if you could call it a society. And the clash came to a head with this one person who brought this real sense of frustration. And now on top of everything, this first Israel, this liberal Israel, is celebrating a so-called peace with the Arabs by giving them land, by giving them control and so forth. And they saw that, of course, as a betrayal.
Yeah.
So when people try to make the suggestion, like the liberal Zios in this country, that if we just got rid of X, that Y will now all of a sudden be acceptable. But no, they're all the same. Just depends on at what level. The whole concept of this state is genocidal.
Yeah. And they're now going to be desperately trying to whitewash it. So I'm glad that he did this video at this time, because this is where they're going to start trying, just like the theater in the Knesset and this, it's very clear that they're going to try now to claim as if this whole past couple of years is just the result of this sort of, outlier group. And that's just not the case. So we need to remain very focused on ending the Zio state. We cannot let it turn into, okay, we're going to be done genociding people now, but we're still good, right? Because we got rid of the bad team. We're still good. No.
Now, they are that disconnected. And that's why, like I said, when you guys probably saw the clip that I put out earlier about Ben Shapiro, they have nowhere to go. They don't know what to do because they can't. Ben Shapiro, Mark Levin, forget anyone that has celebrated the Zio state outright. To hell with all of them. But people like Ben Shapiro and Mark Levin, they can't reinvent themselves.
Okay, but you said his name. You said his name. I'm sorry. Sorry, I can't. I feel like when you mention him, it's just I need to see it. It warms the heart. Sorry.
I don't blame you. I understand.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, this is why I've been saying for the longest time, I don't think we can save the Palestinian people, but what we can do is we can do everything in our capacity to make sure that this genocidal state ceases to exist. And what happens with the people, I don't give a fuck.
Well, I care to the extent of that's part of why I'm leaving South Florida. Because I do care. I care for all the people that are living in places going about their happy little lives, whatever that is. And now they're going to be invaded and infested by a bunch of Zios.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, if any
No
part
one
of the
deserves
world,
that.
well, this is part of the reason why they're all concentrating in the same place. Not surprising.
Yeah.
But as the economic effects of what happens to the climate continues to affect Southeast Florida, couldn't happen to better people.
Yeah.
Miko has a little bit more to say.
That is why he was assassinated. The idea of peace was not really something that was the issue. The idea of this first liberal Israel and him being a symbol of that Israel is why he was assassinated. And of course, this was the apex of liberal Israel, of the first Israel. You know, allowing the Palestinians a small measure of independence.
My goodness, I tell you, the crossover between the political disposition of the shit liberty that is the Rabin version of Israel and the shit liberty version of, let's say, the Clinton Democratic Party is
well, they're Kamala. It's Kamala. Like when everybody was saying, well, but Kamala's better than Trump because she's genocide light. That's the extent of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So, right. Of course.
And I hate to say it, but this is also part of the reason why it's better to have Trump than have Kamala, because people truly do go to sleep when the rosy language is thrown at them. We're really trying to save the Palestinians.
Tirelessly.
We're really trying to say. Whereas to totally get rid of all the people that are terrible. Again, that's the difference. With Trump, you can't turn away. The car crashing, the wreck is right in front of you. You can't turn away. It's in all directions. Whereas when shit liberty is thrown in your direction, they just try to pat you on the head and rub your belly and say, everything's going to be okay. We're just going to kill a few people and it'll be all right.
We're just going to kill some folks.
Miko could not seriously, he's, as always, is very spot on.
Which, of course, we know is not independence, but just another method, another way to control the Palestinians and deny them their rights. But again, people don't want to confuse a good story with the facts, but it's important, particularly on a day like today, and given the fact that there are plays being made about him and so forth, again, always portraying him as some kind of a martyr for peace and a hero, it's important to set the record straight that he was neither a martyr for peace, nor was he a hero unless you support and believe in the crimes that the Zionists have been committing over the last 100 years. So people who support this idea of an Israel, people who support the crimes against the Palestinians, of course, see him as a hero. But the reality is that he was a war criminal. He wanted nothing to do with peace. He wanted nothing even remotely that resembled independence or autonomy or self-determination for the Palestinians. Thank you.
Thank you, Miko, for that excellent public service announcement. I think it's very relevant right now because that's where they're all on their off ramp. They're all trying to figure out what to do and salvage what they have left. So they're putting on theater everywhere. And we cannot be deterred and somehow think, maybe a few years ago, they could have continued at the pace they were and just sort of lived through it, whatever, but now they lost it. They lost it. It's over. It's over. We see, it's like they're never coming back from this.
I agree. And not only are they not coming back from this, think about how many lives could have been saved. As I try to point out to everyone who was not aware of our channel after October 7th, the very first live stream that we did after it occurred, you made that public you issued that statement to basically to the effect that they're going to try to kill them all.
Of course.
This was always a plan, as of course we are now finding out that it was always a plan. October 7th was planned. Netanyahu has been funding Hamas. Again, no surprises. You know, people want to act surprised. And in reality, we tried to do everything we could to soften the blow in terms of what was coming. And I bring this up because we are a shadow ban channel. We know we are. And we're going to continue to do what we can to fight through it. When the story came out that YouTube had deleted 700 plus videos regarding Israel's war crimes, of course, they deleted one of ours. We're one of those. We have one of those videos. And the video that was deleted was about Hind Rejab. And the fact of the matter is, and I believe this, the reason why that video in particular got us our first copyright strike in the history of our show, got the video banned, and then basically put our channel in purgatory for about a week. So
we got put in timeout.
Got put in timeout. The biggest reason that I think they did that is because we didn't just expose the IDF mass murdering this little girl and her family. It was the fact that it was led by a U.S. soldier.
Correct.
And they had to, they can't allow that. That's
his name is Sean Glass.
Yeah. In case
his
you
name
were
is Sean
wondering.
Glass, and that's Sean Sean Glass.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Terrible, especially when it's an Irish person doing it. But that said, credit to The Intercept. YouTube quietly erased more than 700 videos documenting Israeli human rights violations. The tech giant deleted the accounts of 3 prominent Palestinian human rights groups. Colin. A capitulation of Trump. A documentary features mothers surviving Israel's genocide in Gaza, a video investigation uncovering Israel's role in the killing of Palestinian-American journalists, another video revealing Israel's destruction of Palestinian homes in the occupied West Bank. Yeah, don't pay any attention to the West Bank, guys. You know, that's, remember, Hamas isn't even there. YouTube surreptitiously deleted all of these videos in early October by wiping the accounts that posted them from its website, along with their channel's archives, the accounts belonging to 3 prominent Palestinian human rights groups, Al-Haq, Al-Mezan Center for Human Rights, and the Palestinian Center for Human Rights. The move came in response to a U.S. government campaign to stifle accountability for alleged Israeli war crimes against Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank. The Palestinian group's YouTube channels hosted hours of footage documenting and highlighting alleged Israeli government violations of international law in both Gaza and the West Bank, including the killing of Palestinian civilians. Jen, if you will.
I'm sorry, you want me to read?
Go for it.
Okay. I'm pretty shocked that YouTube is showing such a little backbone, said Sarah Leah Whitson, executive director of Democracy for the Arab World Now. It's really hard to imagine any serious argument that sharing information from these Palestinian human rights organizations would somehow violate sanctions. Succumbing to this arbitrary designation of these Palestinian organizations to now censor them is disappointing and pretty surprising. After the International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants and charged Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu and former Secretary Yoav Gallant with war crimes in Gaza, Trump administration escalated its defense of Israel's actions by sanctioning ICC officials and targeting people and organizations that work with the court. It is outrageous that YouTube is furthering the Trump administration's agenda to remove evidence of human rights violations and war crimes from public view, said Catherine Gallagher, a senior staff attorney for the Center of Constitutional Rights. Congress did not intend to allow the president to cut off the flow of information to the American public and the world. Instead, information, including documents and videos, are specifically exempted under the statute that the president cited as his authority for issuing the ICC sanctions. So in short term, basically, we got in trouble. And instead of accepting the fact that we're in trouble, we're just going to make the trouble issuer of the trouble that we're in trouble to be in trouble. That's basically what we're doing. We're going to say, okay, well, then if you're going to punish us, then we're going to punish you back.
YouTube, which is owned by Google, confirmed to The Intercept that it deleted so it actually confirmed to The Intercept that it deleted the group's accounts as a direct result of State Department sanctions against the group after a review. The Trump administration leveled the sanctions against the organization in September over their work with the ICC in cases charging Israeli officials of war crimes. I mean, how much more fucking guilty can you make yourselves look? Like I said, with the GOP, it's a nosedive. With the Democrats, it's a managed decline. Google is committed to compliance with applicable sanctions and trade compliance laws. YouTube spokesperson Boot, what a name, Boot Bullwinkle. Boy, I bet he can't live that one down. According to Google's sanctions compliance publisher policy, Google publisher products are not eligible for any entities or individuals that are restricted under applicable trade sanctions and export compliance laws. Al Mazen, a human rights organization in Gaza, told The Intercept that its YouTube channel was abruptly terminated this year on October 7th without prior notification. Why in the world would they pick October 7th of all days of the year to do such a thing?
Yeah. I mean, well, this is where this is going. I mean, they're going to try their best to buy up all of the platforms and censor as much as they can, but they're playing whack-a-mole. They're playing whack-a-mole, and it's over. They could keep doing it, and it's just going to keep popping up in other places. So, yeah, they're grasping. They're definitely grasping.
The West Bank-based Al Haq's channel was deleted on October 3rd. A spokesperson for the group said, with a message from YouTube, that its content violates our guidelines. No, you mean it violates Israel's ability to do war crimes guidelines.
So wait, this all happened when at the same time? Are these all the things that were taken down when our video was taken down?
This was all done over a period of time throughout the month of October when ultimately it happened to us.
Okay.
So our Hin Rajab video was taken down, I want to say like it was October 20th or sometime around then.
And these are similar content videos. They weren't all Hin Rajab related though.
No, not at all. But they are all directly related to Israel's war crimes. That's pretty much the universal theme here, is that everything is interconnected to this. Colin, if you scroll down a little bit. The Palestinian Center for Human Rights, which the UN describes as the oldest human rights organization in Gaza, said in a statement that YouTube's move protects perpetrators from accountability. YouTube's decision to close PCHR's account is basically one of many consequences that we as an organization have faced since the decision of the U.S. government to sanction an international advocacy officer and legal advisor for the group. YouTube said that we are not following their policy on community guidelines when all our work was basically presenting factual and evidence-based reporting on the crimes committed against the Palestinian people, especially since the start of the ongoing genocide on October 7th. By doing this, YouTube is being complicit in silencing the voices of the Palestinian victims. No, YouTube is complicit in genocide.
Exactly. We're so far past that at this point.
Go for it.
The 3 human rights groups' account terminations cumulatively amount to the erasure of more than 700 videos, according to an Intercept tally. The deleted videos range in scope from investigations such as an analysis of the Israeli killing of American journalist Shireen Abu Akleh to testimonies of Palestinians tortured by Israeli forces and documentaries like The Beach about children playing on a beach who were killed by an Israeli airstrike. Some of the videos are still available through copies saved on the Internet Archive's Wayback Machine or on alternate platforms such as Facebook and Vimeo. The wiping only affected the group's official channels. Videos which were produced by the nonprofits but hosted on alternate YouTube channels remain active. No cumulative index of videos was deleted by YouTube is available. however, and many appear to not be available elsewhere online.
I think that's, how much more does it have, Colin?
We don't need all this.
Yeah, so it's all, but I think the point has been made that the whole premise behind this is to protect war criminals. And so we have a brief clip that kind of explains all of this regarding what had happened. And this, I don't think this is from Al Jazeera, but it's from a Middle East clip that was that I found that was on X.
But now you realize us showing this is going to get us, like, this is going to get us shut down. This is the kind of thing that's going to end up getting us like a strike or something.
Well, Colin, make sure that we don't get caught. And if we don't, then we can play it. And then, well, yeah.
All right. I don't know how you think that works, but okay.
Well, he has to check it. Well, yeah, it goes through the public process.
I don't see necessarily how this connects to our video. It looks like they really focused on those organizations and those platforms of those particular groups.
Well, though we just happened to play one specific video that was highlighting those atrocities, whereas that is ostensibly all that they had been producing, and they had to take them all down. That's not to say that we haven't shown others, but the reason I am confident that we got hit is because there was the link between our own military and the war crimes that are taking place in Gaza. So the idea that the U.S. military is not involved is a lie.
Yeah.
Unwittingly or not, that really isn't up to be determined. But there are so many war criminals and mass murderers by proxy. And the amount that they've been able to get away with is something that we're not going to be able to live down anytime soon, which is why we have to make it our mission to bear witness, as you've said, and do everything we can to make sure that those people did not die in vain. If you're enjoying the conversation so far this evening, please consider going over to patreon.com/revolutionary change. For as little as $5 a month, you could become a supporter of our small but mighty and growing channel. We do have a handful of super chats to get to so far this evening. Jim Talib with the $5 super sticker. Always a pleasure, and we really appreciate you being here. Nawal Najir with the $19.99. Thank you so much for what you're doing. Thank you so much for supporting us. You support us. You do for us, we do for you. It goes hand in hand. That's how it works here. But yes, this is family, and you guys are great, and we have to that we are taking care of everybody as you take care of us. JG with the $5. It's ultra nationalism. You could say America first is the same as an Israel agenda. Expel the Palestinians from our land. We are patriotic and blah, blah, blah. Jen, your thoughts on that?
I'm not exactly sure. So ultra nationalism is so not my bag, that's not what I'm about.
He's referring to the Israelis.
Well, no, I agree that our ultra nationalism, especially like the white Christian nationalism, what we call patriotism, which is really just symbolic nationalism, I find all of that gross. And I do agree that there is very little difference between those two things. So to me, I'm not a, go flag kind of person. So yeah.
You've made that pretty clear.
Oh yeah.
Our good friend over in Scotland, Patman67, thank you for the £7. I'll never forget Hind Rajab, neither will we. I have said and I think you would agree, that if there is a symbol that best represents the mass murder of those children, Hin Rajab represents that.
Yeah,
as well as
I think, and it isn't it really, for me, it's the literal reason is we heard her voice. We heard her voice. I'm never getting that out of my head for the rest of my life. So it isn't just a matter of she was picked. She wasn't picked like to be some symbol of anything, but that's just the voice in my head. So yeah.
We really do appreciate the support, guys, and we are just getting started for the evening. Of course, there will be more to cover as we go forward, but we are going to introduce our good friend who really made a huge difference. Always remember the people that were there with you in the early stages when this was all coming together back in 2019, where we had this half-baked idea that Jen should run for Congress and that I will run alongside her and make sure that she never feels alone. It is
you ran. You ran.
I did. I learned. I lost a lot of weight. I gained a lot of muscle. Hey, thanks, shitty Wasserman, for all that. I can't thank her for anything. What the fuck am I talking about? I despise that woman and will always despise her, but I am appreciative of the people that we met along the way. And one of those people that we did meet is somebody who, in my opinion, is the true whisperer of the rise of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And that, of course, is Zeynab Day. Welcome back to Revolutionary Change.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Zeynab. I thought this is funny because somebody put something in the chat right now that just cracks me up, and it sort of feels relevant now that you're here, but it's just kind of funny. I just thought this was funny.
You're on. We all ran.
Sorry. I don't know, but I always think of you like the Persian princess. So that's sort of like when I saw that, I'm like, that's kind of funny that he put that in there.
Perfect timing.
How are you?
Good. How are you guys doing?
We're good.
Recognize
We're doing as best as possible. Peter will be better now that the shutdown is ending.
Hopefully. Yeah. It directly affected my business. So,
Ooh.
But again, when I see everybody up in arms about what happened, I just have to laugh at it. I do. Why don't you protect our shitty for-profit health system? Why do you get so caught up in this idea that if we just elected a few more Democrats, that they're going to work on our behalf? Oh, yeah. Do they forget that they're funded by the same people? And that ultimately, maybe the biggest reason why this shutdown is ending is because now it's directly affecting people's ability to, let's say, travel at the airport, and it is the holiday season, and the powers that be ultimately decide, yeah, it's time to end it, pull it back. They really look at people like Chuck Schumer and think, yeah, he's in charge.
Yeah.
Are you really that dense? Do people still really think that that's how this works? So if you can talk a little bit about just what your overall experience was like getting in the mud in this system, especially when you were working with Alex in the early stages and you really learned the depths of how bad this really gets. I still think people are just either they're being naive or they're willfully ignorant as to what really goes on and how the government structure truly works, in that it is, in fact, captured by corporate power at the highest level.
Well, I kind of think back to like Paula Jean Swearingen's race, and like Betsy Sweet in Maine, and some of these Senate races that we had, and of course yours as well, Jen. But I think about some of these Senate races, since this was a senatorial vote today, and the way that the Democratic Party protected the incumbents. They're an incumbent protection machine. So they protected these people like a Susan Collins or a Joe Manchin. They literally endorsed Joe Manchin over Paula Jean Swearingen. They did everything they possibly could to thwart Paula Jean Swearingen's campaign in 2020 or in 2018. And then in 2020, they endorsed the DNC, actively supported Shelley Moore Capito, who's a Republican, over her. So I think about the way that they have these rotating villains like Kirsten Sinema and Joe Manchin. And I think these 8 that voted on this are just the next line of the quote unquote rotating villains. So the rest of the Democrats can look like they took some stand against this. But when in all actuality, you know, I wanted them to fight the Republicans. I did. But at the same time, I knew it was kabuki theater. I knew it was fake. And I also was frustrated that what they were fighting for is breadcrumbs. I mean, insurance subsidies for the insurance companies from Obama's privatization of what little public healthcare system that we had. That's what it was. It was a privatization of what little healthcare system that we had. And it was just handouts to the insurance companies. And then they're like, we got to save the handouts, guys. We got to save the subsidies for the insurance companies, or your prices are going to go up. Instead of maybe price setting for the insurance companies, maybe an actual public option, or what I really want, universal health care or Medicare for all. You know, it's just bullshit at the end of the day.
That's exactly what I said. I said, it's just ridiculous there. It's like WWF, where they decide, okay, you're going to be the good guy. I'm going to be the bad guy. You guys will vote this on this one, but this is why. And that's fine. And it won't matter anyway, right? Like, it's totally ridiculous. All of it's ridiculous. And where were all these people that are so concerned with healthcare? Where have they been? Because I don't recall them saying anything when Biden was sitting there. So I'm just, you know, I don't recall these people being so vigilant about our healthcare.
There wasn't a single senator, not one, nobody. Maybe Bernie, if you really want to dig into where he truly stands politically, but not a single person came out and said that the solution is single-payer healthcare. Now, we all know Ro Khanna is running for president, and he's already trying to capture that Bernie AOC lane. So naturally, he is saying Medicare for all. But the fact of the matter is, it's not a consensus at all within this political party, and it never will be. So when you're getting all antsy-pantsy about, oh, the SNAP benefits and the Obama, you're trying to save the ACA? No, there is nothing to save. It's not a question of whether Ro Khanna can win. I'm just saying he's going to run. It's obvious he's going to run because he's not running for governor. He's going to run. He's not running all over the country not to run. So he's doing something. And odds are he's going to run for president.
He's been building up to this for a while. You know, I've got a little story about Roe.
Sure.
In 2017, brand new Congress and Justice Democrats, when I was press director there, we backed John Conyers and Ro Khanna's Medicare for All bill, right? And at that point, it wasn't a household name. A lot of people didn't know what it was. And the day that we had our press conference was the day that John McCain gave like the thumbs up. You guys remember that vote? And we had a thumbs down. That's right. We had a press conference with Ro Khanna and John Conyers, and hardly anyone showed up for the press conference. I think the only person that did was Dave Weigel to roll out this bill. And we decided to go protest. So protest for Medicare for all. So we had people, that disabled folks were there protesting for Medicare for all. Others, we were getting booed by the MoveOn.org people. They were yelling and screaming at us for being there at the, in front of the Capitol building. They were like, how dare you hold up? We're trying to save the ACA, and here you're being these extremist communist radicals. And I remember there was literally dudes that were throwing spitballs at me, like spitting spitballs at me. They were throwing up wadded paper and throwing it at us. It was one of the craziest experiences that I ever had. They were so angry with people saying, this isn't enough. We need Medicare for all. And when other time better than that to push for it, the day that the bill was rolled out. And we'll say one other thing. Bernie hadn't even put out his bill yet. We had to push. I think we got co-sponsors. We got 160 co-sponsors in Congress, which was a lot for the bill. And you remember, Jen, in 2020, when all of you guys were running on it, when we were really pushing it, how presidential candidates were coming out. They were all coming out with their own like shitty version of like
Medicare for all who want it. Come on, baby. You know, the most telling thing the other day, and this is why I'm so glad that this is ending within a week of the election. The only election that mattered was the election for mayor of New York City. And it was so clear as day that They never wanted him. They never will want him, but they sure as shit want his fundraising list and they want his money. And that's why the DNC immediately released a compilation video with him, Sherrill, and Spangberger to say, hey, this is the future of the Democratic Party. And then Mayo Pete comes out and congratulates Governor Sherrill, Governor Spangberger, but didn't say a word about the new mayor of New York City. I'm sure that was just a complete slip of the mind right there. Totally.
Nor did they celebrate the lieutenant governor winning, who was progressive, who was a Muslim woman in Virginia. Nobody mentioned that either. They completely glossed over her win.
Yeah.
Hey, and for a party that loves identity politics, that's the first Indian woman that's ever been elected at that level. So the fact that they deliberately did not acknowledge it, to me, is just a reflection of either you're part of the game or you're not. If you're not a part of the game, you're not wanted here. And that's why leave it to our good friend James Lee of 5149 to explain exactly why this was all kabuki theater. This was not there was never an intention of actually doing anything important. They just want to pretend like they're actually fighting on your behalf.
While what? While distracting us from everything else that's going on. It isn't just that they want to look good like they're fighting for something. It also serves to distract us from things like the Epstein files and them failing to swear in a congressperson and what's going on in Gaza and what's going, I mean, it's multi-purpose is my point.
Agreed.
The whole government shutdown thing was always just a big ploy. Let me explain. So first, the news just broke that the longest ever government shutdown is finally coming to an end. They're saying that the broad framework for this agreement was negotiated by Senator Angus King, Jean Shaheen, and Maggie Hassan, as well as GOP senators, has now, quote, more than enough members of the Senate Democratic Caucus to advance, according to two people granted anonymity to disclose the terms. So then I went to research what was so different about this new bill, and the answer is absolutely nothing. They say that this deal is a pragmatic off-ramp from the initial stalemate, a quote-unquote cleaner CR with some wins for both sides, but it largely kicks the core fights, ACA subsidies, Medicaid cuts down the road without resolution. So why the vote?
All right, so I have to stop this here because I'm still tired of having to explain to people that you're living in an austerity nightmare because they choose to make it an austerity nightmare. And anybody out there who says we're $37 trillion in debt, here's what I say to that. Let's just assume that that's the correct answer. A single-payer healthcare system would save a minimum of $500 billion a year in healthcare costs, which is probably the biggest expense that we have on the books, aside from the military. To ignore that fact, to not acknowledge that a single-payer system covers everybody, gets all of the basic care taken care of, eliminates the for-profit middlemen in between you and your doctors. You know, Cigna, Aetna, Blue Cross, United Health, Luigi. Those organizations don't need to exist. They're literally leeches on society. They offer no value. In fact, they take value away.
Yes.
Because the whole purpose of for-profit health is to get as many people sick or dead as possible to make money. That's it. In fact, the goal is to keep you as sick as long as possible. And if you die, then they can't make money. So the goal, of course, is, like I said, a sick system, which is what we have. But if we were to have a nonprofit system in which the only people who would make money from it are the people providing actual care, like doctors and nurses, you know, those people, then we would have a system that makes sense. So when I hear them fighting over the crumbs of the ACA, I'm thinking, you know what? I feel terrible for people that live in abject poverty, but I have no sympathy whatsoever for these people that run in circles supporting the Democratic Party. Like, right. I don't at all.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, one thing that I will say that I worry about with this kabuki theater and with Zoran Mamdani's win is that you will see the party inauthentically pushing to the left. Some people will. Just like I said, those bullshit Medicare for all bills, I'm already starting to see it happen almost immediately. And it feels good at the moment because you do want the party to move left. But I won't say I'm cynical, but I do not believe in reformation anymore at this point. I don't believe that the party can be reformed. I think we have to move beyond that. And I feel like we're going to see a lot of kind of faux populist pop up. You got to really look at their record and stuff when they start coming out. And I think that it's going to be this kind of bullshit breadcrumb policy like James and you were just describing, that are like Band-Aid fixes. They're not going to go far enough. But they're going to slap like I don't know. They're going to slap a veneer on it of like left populism.
Yeah. Well, they think this is going to somehow make them victorious in the midterms.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
There is no question that the thought process of the corporate Democrats is simple. No matter how many people have to suffer, let us make Trump look as bad as possible. And then by default, because we're so unappealing to anybody, that we'll simply win by accident.
By
That's
default.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. We'll continue.
Now? Well, it's this. One of the main reasons why the shutdown began in the first place is because the Democrats feared electoral backlash from their base. This is an article from last month, and they said that, quote, it's been clear to them that the American people don't want to see a Democratic Party that capitulates to a Republican extremism. They want a party that stands up for people's health care, that stands up for our democracy, and that's what they're doing now. And that message worked brilliantly for the Democrats. They absolutely shellacked the Republicans in the elections last week. And now Democrats who won their elections last week are coming out and saying, yeah, they can be done with this government.
So the big winner of them all, of course, because for those that don't know, Governor Sherrill of New Jersey already has a major scandal brewing on her shoulders. So who knows what the hell's going to happen there? But then again, it's Jersey politics, so nothing surprises me when it comes to my home state. I always have to digress on that point. But Spangenberger is a darling of the Democratic Party, a darling, a person that without question is going to ultimately run for president someday. And so what's the first thing she does when she's interviewed on MSDNC? We have to end the shutdown so that my very wealthy government employees in Northern Virginia, you know, the people that got her elected, yeah, they need to get back to work. What the hell with everybody else? It's not my problem now. I'm in office for 4 years. You're going to forget about this tomorrow. So why care?
Is it just me, or is like Spangenberger, Slotkin, and Amy McGrath all cut from like the same mold? It's like the Democratic Party keeps trying to make fetch happen with like these CIA fed candidates.
Yeah.
They keep doing it. And Tulsi as well. She was a little different, but still, I think she was cut from that mold initially.
Yeah, but you know what Tulsi has that they don't have? Tulsi's a good politician. She is.
That's true.
I've been Tulsi, and I have Tulsi remembers me when we run into each other. I tell you, she's good. She's a good politician. These other women, they suck.
She's at least got charisma, even though I you know, of course she's pro Zionist now. She's all about, you know, carpet bombing babies. But
you got to recognize the game. That's the thing. Certain, you know, they're all in it for those reasons.
I mean, she's a good politician.
But Amy McGrath had to be one of the worst examples of a person who was also working on Trump's behalf behind the scenes. You know, people like to forget about that one as well. This is such a dirty business, and people are so, as Jen likes to say, in need of upper management. They're so tribalistic. They just can't, they're just not capable of thinking for themselves. And I feel bad for them. I really do. Like, you gotta, as much as it's cliche, because I hate the Andrew Tate reference, but you gotta get outside the matrix. Like, you gotta pull yourself out from that mindset, this trap that you are constantly in. You spent this entire time fretting constantly about, oh, they're going to cut our SNAP benefits and they're not going to let us have health care. What are we going to do? This person that you bent over backwards to get elected comfortably in the state of Virginia is telling you, you fell for it again. Yeah, you did. And unfortunately, I just don't see them changing. That's the sad part.
Let's finish it.
Government shutdown now. Yeah, that big fight over healthcare, yeah, that is not even in this new bill. So we had a 40-day government shutdown, air traffic, a complete mess, massive bread lines across the country for absolutely no reason. Okay, it's all a freaking game to these scumbags, and the American people are always the one to suffer.
Yep. I love James. He's so good. I love his work. He does some really good work.
Yeah. I don't know how they do all those videos and put them together. I still haven't figured that part out, but I'll, maybe one day if I have the time, I'll learn it. But in the interim, yes, this is a sham system, and the whole experience of going through, brand new Congress and seeing how the sausage was made, and knowing that you're kind of you're subject to people constantly stabbing you in the back for one thing. It's like people who do not understand politics when they say, how could this person do this to me? And I used to get into it with Jen because she would, say like, these people are so bad and this and that. I'm like, if you go into politics and you do not expect to get fucked over more times than you can count, then you're in the wrong business, because this is how people are. And the worst people end up there. It's still amazing how Cory Booker gets away with as much as he gets away with. And yet, why? Because he dances on the floor.
Right.
He does this little dance, and everything he does is against the interests of working people. And I mean everything.
Right.
He is as bad as it gets. But because he's a nice guy, and he is a nice guy, that he's able to get away with it. And I'm still thinking, why do you refuse to not see the truth? Why do people refuse to ignore the truth? Your thoughts?
I don't know if I think maybe, Peter, just push back just a little bit. I think you might be conflating the mainstream media with the population here a little bit. Because his polling isn't that great, if you want to know the truth. I don't know that people, and I do think there's a class divide. There is a class divide, but I don't know if their BS is sticking anymore. I don't think that it is among among average people. But then if you go and you watch The View, you'd think he's still a pretty popular. He's like the greatest thing since sliced bread,
Well, then again, Marjorie Taylor Greene went on The View, and they were fluffing her up quite a bit. So,
hey, that's going to be my new congresswoman.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Where are you moving? You're moving?
I am.
Are you excited?
Yes, I'm very excited. I'm actually here, but this is an Airbnb in the vicinity of where I'm relocating. Yeah.
Wow.
North Georgia.
I'm in Georgia.
Oh, that's close to me, Jen. I'll have to come visit.
I actually did a little excursion to Kentucky a couple of months ago for the first time. It was amazingly cool. I thought it was beautiful. I went to Abraham Lincoln's birthplace and Mammoth Cave, and it was beautiful.
Mammoth Cave is very nice. Very nice.
Yeah. I like Kentucky.
All such wonderful places that I would like to go to. And wild.
Kentucky is very interesting. It's its whole own vibe. It's not like, you cross over from Georgia into Tennessee. It's similar. Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, like this area is but when you get to Kentucky, it's like, no, now you're kind of more like in Indiana/Illinois vibe, but you also have a little bit of an Appalachia vibe. It's its very own thing. And it is so green and beautiful. Like it was really cool. It had a very different feeling than other places, but it felt good there.
We have a lot of different landscape in Kentucky. Northern Kentucky is its own thing, Western, and then Southeastern. There are 3 different landscapes in one state.
It was beautiful.
Very cool.
I very much liked it. Like if I were a horse, there's nowhere else I would rather live than in Kentucky. I've never seen the best landscape, not just horses. I mean, any critters really. Like it was just beautiful. Rolling green, it was lovely.
What do you see as kind of the future now? I mean, I do think that the Democratic Party's in a lot of trouble, and how it's going to evolve, I'm not sure. But we are supporting Butch Ware for governor of California. And I do think if he gets some decent money behind him, he's going to be a real pain in the ass. And I would say the same for Shama up in Washington, who's running as an independent. And I think that there is slowly but surely a consensus among people that the two-party system no longer works and that we have to carve a new path. What that's going to look like is still yet to be determined. I do think that the America First / libertarian movement is growing leaps and bounds. So that has to be taken into consideration. And then on the other side, I think that whatever remnants of a populist left movement is even possible, which right now doesn't really exist, can it become something? And if it does, I mean, I'm hopeful that Zoran is going to do good work. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. And with that said, I think he'll do good work in spite of the fact that he's in the Democratic Party. I think the best laid plans going forward is going to be how we continue to build this thing outside of the two-party system. That's my thought.
Are you asking me or Jen?
Yes. Well,
He's asking you.
Okay. I'm like,
guru.
No, he's not asking me.
I think Sama Shawat has a really good, I think she has a good chance because, you know, Sarah Smith, when she ran, well, she ran 2 times. She ran in 2018 and 2020, but 2020, she was within a fraction of a point of winning. So, and we hardly raised anything for her campaign. I mean, it was a very small campaign. She did really good door knocking and grassroots organizing as far as that goes. And I think that's something that Shama knows how to do well. So, and she has more name recognition than Sarah had. And since Sarah almost inched out Adam Smith, I think that Shama has a really, really good chance of winning. Butch Ware, I think his is going to be in the field. I think he's going to win or lose in the field. And I hope that his campaign builds a strong field presence because that's a big state to cover. I mean, hell, I had trouble covering, you know, we had trouble covering just regular districts for, you know, House reps. So, and I'm not saying that to naysay. It's just if they build a really strong field, he may be able to do that. Because ultimately, I think that is what carried Mamdani over the threshold were those 50,000 volunteers that got out and knocked doors for him. I don't think, I mean, sure, he's handsome and charismatic and he had fun videos and stuff, but his field is where he really, really shined. And he was out with the community, much like Jen was when you guys ran. Yeah. So, I think that's the lesson to be learned really from his campaign is that policy wins. And the Democrats, I will tell you one other thing. The Democrats love to make his campaign just about his charisma and not about the policy.
Why is that?
Aesthetic.
Why is that, Zaina? Why do you think that is?
Because they're so excited about the policy, Jen, you know.
Yeah. So guys, I put up I never know which side. I think it's on the other side than what I think it is. But this QR code is for the Revolutionary Change PAC. Butch Ware is our, you know, first candidate that we're really going to be promoting. We do support Shama, but she's in the general election in November. So her race is a little further down the road than Butch Ware's, which is coming up in June. So when Zaina talks about him having a ground game, we'd like to contribute to that. That's what we're trying to be able to do for our candidates. So if you guys would like to see some revolutionary change, like in the governor's seat of California, then this one, I never know which way. I think I'm the opposite, but it's there. Anywho.
Zaina, can you talk about how Zoran was not only able to do it, which I do believe the reason he was able to pull it off is because when he did say that he was against the state of Israel, the Zionists created the Streisand effect. They would not stop talking about it or about him, and his name ID shot up like a rocket ship. And then when he had his close-up during the debate, and they tried to box him in, and he still performed well. To me, I thought, yeah, he might pull this off because they're giving him everything. One of the biggest reasons why Jen could not beat Wasserman Schultz is because Debbie is allowed to ignore everything. Her constituents, unfortunately, especially the ones that vote for her, live very comfortably. And then you also have the share of the ones that they get in the poorer areas that they basically, let's be honest, bribe them to vote for her. So it's much more of a different situation running in a place like New York City. But to me, as much as I love his platform and I think he will do some good in New York, he never would have had a chance if they just ignored him and never acknowledged him. I don't think it ever would have happened. But because they made it a point to never stop talking about him, that he took off. And he made it count in such a big way.
They helped to make him a household name. by trying to smear and deflate him. I definitely think that. I also truly, genuinely believe that his race was off the backs of the last decade of work that thousands of organizers have done. I'm not going to deny the work of like, you know, although I have some of my issues with DSA, there are really good DSA organizers out there. There's, we had 9 candidates run, brand new Congress had 9 candidates run in New York. It didn't happen overnight, just like we haven't gotten to the point of the fascist regime we're in right now overnight. I don't think that Zoran Mamdani's win was a flash pan and happened overnight. I mean, nope. We've had others. I mean, we've had great races that have come really close to winning. We helped to make certain policies a household name, like the Green New Deal, Medicare for All, abolish ICE. You guys remember when we were running on abolish ICE? Jen, you ran refusing AIPAC money. Cori Bush ran refusing AIPAC money. Every single brand new Congress candidate did. And yeah, the zeitgeist changed, I think, because of where we are now and because of Israel's actions. And
they agree. Is that you or Jen's?
That's hers. Lou is still pouting after being deloused today. My dog got fleas.
My brother just got to get deloused. Oh, your dogs do that too?
What, get flea or make noise? No, yeah. She doesn't. But sometimes you could see her back. She's back there. She's pouting.
My brother just got home from work, so they got super excited. Either that or they were saying, yeah, Israel sucks. I'm not sure which.
Well, they really do. And the good news is that it's an earth-shattering change in so many ways. And I pointed this out on Saturday. He already did more than we could have asked of him because of the symbol that his win represents regarding the Zionist state and the Israel lobby as a whole. Now he's looking to take it a step even further, which will actually put him in harm's way. He is actually putting the word out there, whether it's a leak or not, I'm sure it's an intentional leak, but that when he takes over on New Year's, the city contracts, which are in the billions of dollars between New York and the state of Israel, are no longer going to be renewed. And if that happens, he better have security detail on him 24/7. He better have sniffing bomb dogs and all of that. I mean, listen, I have my opinion about what happened to Charlie Kirk. Don't think they'll hesitate to assassinate a mayor, even if it's the mayor of New York City. If you get in the way,
they've assassinated the president of the United States. Like, I don't know what you're like. What are you saying?
If Zoran does follow through, again, it's just talk. But if he actually does start cutting these contracts, I mean, he better make peace with the fact that he will likely get killed.
Yeah, because right now Israel's kind of desperate because there have even been some small municipalities that they've been going after city councils that are refusing to fund them. I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen those stories, and that is one element. And I've heard you guys talk about it before, but the one element of state governments and local municipalities fund Israel, and right now one of the things that they're low on is equipment. And they're desperately trying to get equipment, and they're trying to get money to buy equipment. And they're, because they, you know, Greater Israel Project, you know, they're trying to annex the entirety of the West Bank. They're busy tearing down houses every day, and their equipment breaks down because of their maniac goals that they have right now. But and you think about the kinds of contracts, it's the imperial boomerang. Like, New York is the heart of the imperial boomerang when it comes to Israel in a lot of ways, because the NYPD has a headquarters in Jerusalem. There's so much cross training between the NYPD and the IDFs. There's tons of cross contracts. Not to mention, a lot of the land sales are happening directly out of New York for land in the West Bank and Golan Heights. A lot of the sales that are happening regarding Gaza right now, the illegal sales of land in Gaza, are coming out of and happening through New York. And who knows how much of that is tied to actual, city funding for these NGOs and nonprofits that they use as shell organizations to do the land sales. There's a lot of dynamics there, specifically tied to New York. The only other two states that I could think that would even come close would be California and Florida.
And in California, then let's say hypothetically someone like Governor Butch Ware starts really pushing to divest that state from Israel.
Yeah.
That's massive.
Yeah. And it could end up creating this type of momentum that is continuing to cause these, let's just say, very concerned corporate shill commentators. And I think a good place to take this conversation, I am assuming you've been paying attention to where some of these guys have been going. We've covered Ben Shapiro. We've covered a number of them. They really have lost their minds. And the person that they have put the most heat on is Tucker Carlson, which is not surprising because he really does have a great deal of influence, much more so than, let's just say, in terms of the suit crowd, the crowd with real money, unlike, let's say, Nick Fuentes, for example. Tucker Carlson's been at the top. He's somebody who the president of the United States, I guess at one time or another, had a good relationship with. That's changed. And he's been kind of exposing a lot of, not just necessarily what's bad about Israel, but he's made it his mission to go after Christian Zionists, which seems to have been an aspect that was lost over the course of the past 2 years. And we've seen the rise of the Fuenteses of the world that are basically saying that this is a Jew problem and not a Zionist problem. And there are Zionist Jews and Zionist Christians. And all the while, now that Tucker is doing what he's doing, they're losing their minds in a big way. And this was a little fun video that just dropped earlier this evening from, I don't know who the worst Zio scum is that does media, but Mark Levin is right up there as far as I'm concerned.
Then we have on the fascistic, neo-Nazi, radical right, and by the way, I'm not talking about constitutional conservatives, not in the least. We're not on the radical right. We're right in the center. And I don't mean ideologically, I mean we're right in the center. We support the Constitution, the Declaration, the founding, and everything that was done to create this nation. How can we be right-wing?
Let's see. You don't support promotion of the social welfare. You are a traitor to this country since your loyalties lie with Israel first, no matter what you say. And on top of everything else, he's such a miserable bastard. Like he really is. He's a short, bald, fat man. So naturally, he's just not going to be a very happy-go-lucky type guy. I have never seen him smile once in his life. He's always a gruff every time he's on camera. And right now, his explanation of neoconservatism is ideologically in the center of politics. That's what he wants you to believe.
And in a way it is, because everything shifted so far right.
If you were to base our political ideological spectrum to the rest of the world, yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
The Overton window has been moved there.
Mark Levin also says that he's a constitutionalist, yet when Mark Levin says constitutionalist, he doesn't mean any of the amendments that have offered that are not part of the original document. So he's not actually a constitutionalist at all.
No, he's not about the Bill of Rights.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, he's not offering any actual, well, like a lot of times people will say, like we were covering the lauding of Pelosi when she announced that she's retiring. And it's like, oh, she's the greatest that ever was. And they can't name one damn thing about what she did well. I can name a lot of things about what she did badly. But hey, that's the thing about fluff and politics. We're really great. We're the greatest in the history of the world. How is that, Mr. President? Oh, just believe me. Believe me. I know what I'm talking about. So yeah, a lot of that blowharded shit, and he's got a lot more of it to give.
Right wing of what? These people are not America first. America first isn't evil over good. America first isn't tyranny over liberty. America First isn't sounding like the Marxist, Islamist, anti-American Jew haters. That's not a...
The Marxist, Islamist, anti-Semitic Jew haters?
What is that?
I don't know.
How do Marxists and Islamists get together? I'm not 100% sure about that one, but
ironically, Marx it's the Jews. So I'm confused because a lot of the Marxists are Jewish, and so I'm just saying, like, that's just a very strange combination of adjectives.
Well, he doesn't really know what to say, so he's just throwing whatever shit he can at the wall and hopes it's
American at all. That's not America First, Second, or Third. No, they're aiding and abetting people who want to destroy the country. They want to destroy the country. You have individuals in that ilk, in that cabal, who talk up Hitler, who platform people who talk up Hitler. You have individuals who talk up Stalin, who platform people who talk up Stalin. You have individuals who defend Hamas as a political movement, not a terrorist movement.
Yes.
How many people have been slaughtered, Americans, by the Islamists? The Islamists have killed more Americans.
How come he doesn't talk about how many Americans have been slaughtered by Ziohel? I just think that's interesting because I actually think more Americans have been killed by our so-called ally Ziohel than by any of the people to whom he's referring. Even if you just look at the USS Liberty alone, like what is he talking about?
Iraq, Afghanistan.
Yeah, but they didn't do anything to us.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in their mind, they did. It was interesting because you probably saw the clip from the Knesset earlier where they were, really going in on Netanyahu, Milikowski. But we pointed out, which is why liberal or neoliberalism is much worse than neoconservatism, because they hide their stripes much more effectively. So when they are going after Milikowski, but lauding the IDF and never acknowledging the Palestinians, there's a reason why they get away with what they get away with. There's a reason why that ideology is much more devastating, because the crimes could be gotten away with. When somebody like this blowhard, twin of Giuliani, is talking, again, the Jewish version of Giuliani, you're looking at him. It's like a spiraling tornado. They don't know what to do. Islamist, Marxist, loves Stalin, loves Hitler. These people love genocide.
And see, at the end of the day, what I've heard from him right now isn't that much different than what I heard from Kathy Hochul twice this week.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot more in your face, but she basically, it was like a shit sandwich with sprinkles on it.
Now, if you keep asking me to raise those taxes on the super rich, I'm definitely not going to do it.
All right.
One turd sandwich.
How much more of this douche do you have here?
Plenty. Here we go.
As Victor Davis Hanson so brilliantly pointed out in the Free Press, than any other entity.
Plug to the Free Press. Never forget to plug the Free Press.
Right.
Just putting that out.
Since the end of World War II. Did you know that? When we were hit on 9/11, we took a bigger hit than we took at Pearl Harbor. Are you aware of that? There's a lot of young people who aren't. They're being brainwashed to the opposite. If Stalin had had his way, America wouldn't have even existed. But we're told, no, Eisenhower was wrong. We're told Churchill's the bad guy. Hitler's misunderstood. And these guys, they are desperate for normal, regular Americans to debate them. To debate what? They belong in a mental institution. The point is, I despise them because they're trying to use the cover of conservatism in the American flag to justify the unjustifiable. That is what we are facing right now in our country. The problem is these people, the neo-Nazi fascists on the extreme right, they're the weak underbelly of this republic. You know, the other side, they know what they stand for. They're fighting. They're bringing people into the country who agree with them. They fight assimilation. They're trying to reach out to young people through Marxist propaganda, and we'll give you something for nothing. And they use Saul Alinsky tactics. Rich people are bad. You know, get the Jews, get the Christians. The others, they want you to believe that you stand for them. Are you unhappy? Are you down on your luck? Aren't you sick and tired of what's going on? Well, join us. Join you to do what? We've seen their type before, Mr. and Mrs. America. We've seen it in Europe. We've seen it in Germany. We've seen it in the United States in the 1930s, although it wasn't this bad. In the 1930s. Look at it this way. What do you think the founders of your country would think of these people who claim that they represent the Constitution of the Declaration of Independence, that they represent the will of God, as pointed out in the Declaration, or the Enlightenment, when they're siding with Hamas?
Now, actually, what the founders would think of those that are trying to break away from Israel is that we are the patriots. You see, the people that side with Israel are no different than those who were secretly working for the Redcoats during the revolution. They're not for this country. And even though I haven't seen the movie Network, it is pointed out very eloquently in that film how the true elites of this world do not see countries. They don't exist. Everything is a means to an end. And we all have to suffer as a result.
Well, he supports Trump's Gestapo because, you know, Palantir and his buddies, his billionaire buddies, are making a lot of money selling the tech that they tested out in Gaza and the West Bank to ICE to use on our own people here. He's all for that. He's all for Trump's Gestapo.
How about the fact that the ICE agents are trained by the IDF? The tie-ins are real. And this guy has been selling that BS for decades. So does Sean Hannity.
I don't know that I can watch much more of this guy. Like, seriously, it's really gross. Like, why? It's a lot.
We've got a little more. Well, he's spiralling.
I'm not like it's
that in my soul. Just
I feel like I get the gist.
When they're siding with Hitler, when they're siding with Stalin, what do you think? What do you think our founders would think if they knew who Hitler was and they knew who Stalin was? And all, who do you think they'd be siding with? Well, they clearly didn't side with the King of England, did they? The King of England wasn't anything like what we're talking about now. And here's the other thing. These people I'm talking about, they trashed President Reagan, who defeated the Soviet Union. They trashed President Trump, who took out the nuclear sites in Iran. Our President of the United States, who's peace through strength, who's a very practical man, an incredibly patriotic man, they're stabbing him in the back too. They try to steal MAGA. They try to steal America first. But these people are reprobates. They're reprobates. So here's the deal. The 250th anniversary is coming up. What are we celebrating? Our great founders, the men and women who fought the Revolutionary War, who fought it for liberty, for sovereignty, for representative government, for what we now call capitalism. They didn't fight it for genocide.
Because capitalism and genocide don't go hand in hand.
Did this guy really just use the word genocide in that context?
He did, but what's interesting is he's saying we did it for this, not for that. But those are the same. Capitalism and genocide go hand in hand. Like, those things go together. It's like peanut butter and jelly.
So you have to love Trump unconditionally. You have to support capitalism unconditionally. And when he references genocide, he's not talking about Israel. And to me, this is what brings it all together. They simply can't accept the fact that the jig is up on Israel. It's over. And either they know it and they're just not willing to accept it, or they do know it and they're still trying to convince people to not believe their lying eyes, which is why we pointed out earlier that the Knesset, much like liberal Zios, are going to continue to just say that this is a Netanyahu Milikowski problem and not an Israel problem. And that until that state no longer stands and we are not party to what they're doing, that we completely disassemble that relationship, that this will only continue and it's only going to get worse. And with the likes of, okay.
After Sabra and Shatila, right? After the massacres in Sabra and Shatila in the late 80s, the country did turn against, because it was so horrific, right? And pictures started coming out. The country did turn against funding Israel. There was huge backlash. And I think they're trying the same thing that they did then, which there was heavy censorship all of a sudden on all the newspapers, because print was a big deal, on talk radio, because talk radio is on the rise, and on broadcast news, right? To like clamp down on the message. And they reformatted literal Hasbara departments. Mossad reformatted Hasbara departments. They created new ones. They started putting like Hillel on campuses. And they did all of this in order to like push this new kind of Hasbara that they pushed, that they have today, which is slightly different than what they'd had in before that. And I think they're just trying the same old model. And that's why that's why your all's video is taken down. That's why my friends on TikTok, their videos are being taken down. And I see less and less pro-Palestinian lives over there. That's why we're suppressed on social media. I mean, I have been. I'm sure you guys have been too, for a good while now. So I think that's how they're planning on controlling that's why Barry Weiss is sitting up there at CBS. And got a position that she's not exactly qualified for, right? I think that's what we're looking at, and I think that's what they're trying. So it's just more gaslighting, and Levin is just leaning into that. But did you notice how he tried to reframe genocide? That's telling about where Israel may be going with some of their messaging, and I've been seeing that. It was capitalism, not genocide.
Yeah.
So he's denying the genocide of the Native Americans, which is that's crazy.
We have just a little bit left, but let's finish it up.
They didn't fight it for all these other causes that somehow have become popular. This is our generation's war. It's a non-fighting war. But it's more daunting. It's more complicated because it's from within. Abraham Lincoln talked about the enemy within. President Trump has talked about the enemy within. Well, they're here. They're here on the Marxist Islamist left, and they're here on the neo-Nazi fascistic right. They're here right now. They've devoured many of our institutions in our culture. They've devoured most of academia. The President of the United States is pushing back. He's pushing back hard. But we have a responsibility too. And what is that responsibility? This is our country. We're celebrating our country. Every July 4th, we're celebrating the principles that undergird our country. If you reject Judaism and you reject Christianity and you reject the link of the two, you reject the Bible. If you reject Judaism and Christianity and the brotherhood and the sisterhood of the two, not only are you rejecting our founding, you're rejecting our country.
Yes!
You're pushing some other agenda, whatever that agenda may be. We have a responsibility.
I feel like, to be honest, Peter, we already heard this once tonight when we heard the woman in the Knesset acting like she was yelling.
Yeah, I can't anymore. I can't. Sorry, I can't.
The same person, the same liberal Zionist that was acting like she was yelling at Netanyahu sounds exactly like Levin here to me.
Well, that's the difference between the neocon and the neo-lib. They're basically saying the same message. One just says it a little bit more in a rosary way. And this guy is, well, he's a miserable bastard to begin with. So you add in this, he's no longer relevant element, because he's really not. He's the difference between somebody like Tucker Carlson and somebody like Mark Levin is that Tucker Carlson is able to reinvent himself. Mark Levin isn't. So
That's
it's
true.
only a matter of time. And the
Although
same-
I like to hold Tucker to it a little bit since he's responsible for white replacement theory and ICE.
Yeah,
And,
no, Tucker
just
is
stop
not
rounding up
I'm not
people
a
and putting them
fan.
in concentration camps right now. That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad.
Yep.
when dealing with the end of Zionism, you will have to forge certain relationships in order to see it through. Because right now, we're trying to save as many Palestinian lives as we can. And if we can't, then we must disassemble this relationship once and for all. It is the only solution.
It is not a relationship.
Well, whatever you want to call it, it's an unholy alliance.
No, it's not its own. They don't have, it's not an alliance because they don't exist without us. See, that's the thing. They're a fantasy land. If we're not associated with them, they cease to exist. So it doesn't matter. They are us. You when you talk like that, it's like you're respecting this idea that they're this sovereign thing, and they're really not. So, you know, they need to cease to exist. We don't need to disassociate. They need to cease to exist. And if that means American empire is going with them, then I guess we just weren't good enough to survive.
Which is all the more reason why the only way out of this is a revolution. Like, it's coming. There will be a revolutionary change in this country. You can't look at what's going on and think that this is acceptable. And I also think that these voices that have been so used to everyone listening to them, again, I only played it because I think it's hilarious watching a mass murderer by proxy. I say it of Ben Shapiro. I say it of Mark Levin. You are a genocidal mass murderer by proxy by doing what you've done. You have Palestinian blood and then some on your hands. And as far as I'm concerned, if this was a true revolutionary period, he'd be executed. Because he is in part and parcel in so many ways why we can't have nice things in this country. And
He's
never
trying
forget,
to rebrand himself as a moderate.
it will never happen.
And okay, we were talking about Tucker. I appreciate what he's saying now for about the Palestinian people and about Israel, because it is moving in a direction that specifically needs to move in. And I will say I appreciate that. But I cannot forget how he said that someone like me should be deported from this country. I'm half Iranian. He said that I should lose birthright citizenship because my father was an immigrant from a terrorist state of Iran. He supported the Iraq War. 1 million people died there. He supported sending weapons to Yemen initially. Then he backtracked when he found out it wasn't popular. Supported sending weapons to Saudi Arabia to blow up Yemen, which was a genocide.
Yeah.
Which was a genocide. And hundreds of thousands of people
still
died.
going on.
He doesn't say anything about the genocides in Congo or Sudan when it's Black people. There have been multiple genocides. Iraq was a genocide. Yemen was a genocide. We have been involved in other genocides, and the Palestinian genocide is disgusting, and it's wrong, and it's horrific, and it's the latest of Israel's onslaught of genocides that they have helped to perpetuate alongside the United States. He supported other genocides. I cannot forgive that, even if he's on the right side of history right now.
Zeynab, I wish I never had to talk about Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes, Candace Owens, Ben Shapiro ever again. Like, I do not see those people as allies. I just don't. But somehow this is where we are right now. Yeah. And I don't. But if Tucker uses his platform to reach Christian Zios and is able to have some sort of impact in that, it's a net positive in this particular scenario.
I agree.
But I agree. These people are pieces of shit. They're pieces of shit. So this isn't like, oh, we're going to align with these people. No. But I can at least say, okay, thank you for at least educating a certain amount of the population as to what's going on in this case.
Yeah, I agree.
It's also why.
And it's like Lila said, they're using Lila from Punch Up Pod. I think it's Lila. It might be Pat.
It's Lila.
I know it sounds like her. I was like, that's got to be Lila. They're using this to further their project against Jews. And there is some truth to that.
Oh, yeah, no, they don't like the Jews. They just need all of us to be in Zio hell to die at the same time so they can have their rapture. They don't give a crap about the Jews.
No, I wouldn't say that that's the case for all of them, but I would definitely say in the case of Fuentes that that is the angle. And it's working because, as I point out, anytime I address him on my solo show, if you are going to call it the Jew problem, there's only one group you're helping, and that's the Zionists.
Yeah.
That is exactly what they want. They want you to frame it in that light. If you do, their state continues. If you make it a Zio-Nazi problem, which it is, then you can discern the difference. We saw how people voted for Zoran. We are extremely appreciative of, particularly with Tucker Carlson, how he is going after Christian Zionists.
He's forcing it to share the load. He's forcing the Zionist problem to be on both, to not just be a Jewish problem. And he's reaching a lot of that audience. And so as a Jewish person, I do appreciate that he is highlighting and going after the Christian Zios, since there are more Christian Zios in this country than Jews in the whole world.
And
Same with Candace Owens, you know.
Yes.
I mean, in all honesty, you know, there's a million things I disagree with her on, but I am glad that she's out there. I am glad that it's reaching people with her saying that this isn't a Christian thing to do to support a genocide, to support this.
Yeah.
You know, as much as I disagree with her on everything else, I do not see her as an ally. I am glad that that message is still getting out there and reaching her audience. That's massive.
Yes.
No, so. And I also, and again, Candace would be a great example of somebody who, look, I've been following her for years. I know exactly who she is. She's very good at what she does. Again, I said it when Charlie was assassinated. I respected the hell out of him for having as good a grift as anybody I've ever seen. You respect the game. You don't have to respect the person. And in
I don't respect the game.
Oh no, I'm saying if you're going to play the game, if you're going to play the game, you play it well.
TPUSA, they're a god awful organization.
Oh, absolutely. Well,
this is coming from.
Well, the whole point about the organization is just that it is like all these organizations that people still don't understand. When you see the bright lights, it means it's being funded by people who have no interest in whether you live or die.
Yeah.
And so when I went to one of his
that creepy funeral, right? That's pretty much
totally normal. Totally normal.
Yeah, that totally normal.
That wasn't a funeral. There still hasn't been a funeral. There's been no autopsy. There's been no funeral. They've concreted over the forensic evidence at the crime scene. So, you know, nothing to see here.
But definitely it was that person, that's the patsy, that did the deed. And the reason, again, as I said, that this needs to be an alliance for however brief a period, it must commence because we are losing our country. And I'm still convinced that the reason why Tucker and Marjorie and a few others have gone down this road is because they do see the writing on the wall. They do see it. And that's why they're saying it. They're like, I do not agree with a lot of these people on a lot of different things, but at the end of the day, we're going to lose our whole fucking country if we do not end this thing. Like, we have to. Because if there is one world leader that I believe would drop a nuclear bomb if they got backed into a corner, it's Netanyahu. To me, he's the most dangerous person in the world right now.
I see that. I see that. I also, though, I hear where you're coming from and I agree with you. But at the same time, I don't hear very much from them about the person in Chicago who's walking down the street. And right now, the person to them that's the most immediate danger to them is the ICE agent that's going to whisk them off to a concentration camp and disappear them.
Well, let's actually close on that note, because one thing that I've been reading about, and I'm sure you have too, is that apparently a lot of people that are being confronted by ICE agents, they're now deciding to exercise their Second Amendment rights. And that when the ICE agents decide to come for them, they might actually be met with gunfire. And if that is the case, we'll see how tough they really are. Because if there's one thing we've learned about a lot of these ICE agents, these are just, with all due respect, shit kickers picked up off the street, some mentally effed up military men who are hardened, racist, bigoted, angry people who are getting paid a lot of money to go around and smash heads in of people that they already don't like. So for them,
a lot of them are Patriot Front, Proud Boys, because they literally infiltrated. Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of
playing losers.
Instead of playing fake commando in Tim Pool's and Steven Crowder's, community chat, now they get to go out in the real world and actually do it. And they can get paid a lot of money to do it too. And they're so used to doing it with people that can't defend themselves. But the second that the people who can start to defend themselves, watch how fast they run away. That's what I say. And that's what's going to happen. So, hey, I believe in the Second Amendment as much as anybody. You have the right to defend yourself. You're legally here in this country. As Jen likes to say, that's not a nice term. But let's just assume for a moment that this is all about quota and making money and whatever the reasons are. I have said it before, and you know me, Z. I'm somewhat of a hardliner on immigration, but that is because I believe in the worker of this country. Because multinational corporations do not want you; they would rather you be slaves if they can get away with it. But what they will do is put you through slave wage. And if you even for a second think that you're going to get paid a living wage, they will open up the floodgates, bring people in who are desperate for anything, and they'll make them work for pennies on the dollar. And we all get fucked in the process, and no one is standing up to it. So when people complain, like Tucker and others, they talk about the issues with immigration in this country. If you do not address the core problem with why this is an issue, then I don't want to hear a word out of your mouth because you're not actually looking for a solution.
A lot of our jobs, you're right. That happens with about 12%. And then you've got more in the tech industry. 75% of jobs were impacted by temp work and the erosion of unions, though. That's where most of it went.
Yeah.
Immigration was a small fraction.
How about this?
It's mostly that.
How about this?
And now AI.
Don't even get me started with that. How I would say since the dawn of Reagan, you go back even further, say since the assassination of Kennedy, because that's really where it started. If there was one policy that truly fucked this country more than any other, it was Clinton's removal of Glass-Steagall and the merging of the banks. That's the worst policy. And in the past 25 years, there has not been a single person besides Bernie Sanders in 2016 that actually talked about this issue about restoring Glass-Steagall. That we actually need to restore. I know you, but the restoration of Glass-Steagall, no one talks about this. Nobody. So if you truly care about this country, you care about where we're going, how do you not talk about this? It's such an obvious solution, and yet you have people that still want to talk about how much they love the Clintons.
Well, we need to remind, so a lot of Gen Z they haven't been introduced to the very recent history, right? So they didn't know that colleges were subsidized at 85%. They didn't know, and this is, in the 90s, they didn't know that we had after school. You remember this, Jen, when we had before and after school programs, when childcare was almost fully subsidized. So a lot of the boomer generation, some of the older Gen X got to go to college for free. Basically subsidized at 85%. So they only paid like 15% tuition for state colleges and community colleges. We had clinics all over the country. 1,200 clinics closed down because of the ACA. These clinics, you could go and you could get your feminine health care. You could get your teeth fixed. You could get eye exams. You could get dental. You got cancer screenings, free mammograms. You could go into the healthcare clinic and get checked up for a cold. And this is even people who make six figures. They would pay a little bit less. They would still pay some, but it would be affordable. He got rid of that. Obama's ACA got rid of that. And before, shareholders, in order for a company to be publicly traded, at least 50% of the stock had to be owned by the workers. Pre-Glass-Steagall, pre-Bill Clinton, because Reagan didn't actually get this passed. He couldn't get it through. Bill Clinton got it done for him. Bill Clinton got the Heritage Foundation stuff passed.
Of course he did.
That mother. He's the one that got it passed.
That's how you triangulate politics, see? Don't you understand? Got to bring it all together.
It's like a triangle. Yes, I see it.
Yep. So boomers now, and I don't blame, there are struggling boomers, so I'm not trying to be like ageist, but that's why there's more generational wealth among boomers, is because they had stocks, because their workplaces offered stocks. Stocks was replaced by 401ks that are reliable on the stock market that are now owned by billionaires. That's what happened.
Always a pleasure to have you. Links are in the description,
Thanks
guys.
for letting me have my rant about history
Oh,
for
yes.
like a
Are you
moment.
kidding? Anytime. You know, that's also one of the hard realities of politics, is that one thing I've learned over the years, if you're a friend, then be a friend, because it's very hard, especially in politics, to have them, because people will stab you in the back and in the front. And
well, we've been friends for what, 6 years now? We've lasted pretty good.
Yeah, no, we have.
And we love you too, Lila.
I love you guys. Yes, and Lila, we love you.
And I will always remember when we came to DC, and I told you privately that I knew that there was something about Corey. I knew she had something good, and it wasn't surprising that she won. And I also told you that I thought it was an absolute insult that Alex could not make a 5-minute appearance at the event just to give people a little word of encouragement. This is 2019, guys, by the way.
Yeah, she had only been in there a year, and she couldn't see fit to come and meet new people.
Guys, if you're trying to
very telling.
If you're trying to run a good campaign, make sure you have a great ground game. Make sure you have a good comms person, and just make sure you're on the ball 24/7, et cetera, et cetera. It could have spent 5 minutes to come in there, just giving everybody a nice bit of advice. Couldn't even do that. And so
I remember we had like a 4 or 5 hour phone call about, because I told you that I thought she was giving money to Democratic
corporate candidates.
Yeah,
she was.
And then she ended up, because I leaked it to Politico.
And then Ava
Pisova and I, she wrote an article and I helped her write it. But yeah, she gave a bunch of the brand new Congress slate. She gave a bunch of money to the incumbents that were sitting.
Yep.
I don't know if Debbie was one of them. Could have been, for all the hell I know.
Yeah.
But she gave to Tom Suozzi, who was Joseph Crowley's best friend, the guy that she unseated, his best friend, she gave money to and tacitly endorsed, even though
against Melanie Dorigo. I remember against Melanie.
Yeah, against Melanie Dorigo.
And don't forget, Tom Suozzi, a week before the election, says, I'm supporting Andrew Cuomo. Zohar Mamdani ain't a Democrat. He'll never be a Democrat. Blah, 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 blah. Just remember, guys, it's a dirty business. Or because I know Carlin says it's a big club and you ain't in it. No, actually, it's a small club and you're not invited. So if you're fortunate enough to get in there, just remember, very few people are able to avoid the trials and tribulations of it. Final thought before you go. Does Corey get back in?
I hope so. I had my issues with Corey. I didn't agree with on everything she did. But I think I would rather have her than who's in there now. That's for damn sure. So
that guy.
Well, with the
I think Corey does. I think she, most of the time, her heart's in the right place. I think that the institution got to her a little bit, but I think she's still authentic. So I don't know. They redistrict her district to get Wesley Bell in, you know that, and then they, spent all that money on him. But you know what I would like to see Corey do actually is organize from the outside and grow like a PAC or a nonprofit or something badass and get out there and organize and rally people. I think she could get a lot more accomplished and then focus on getting people to run in her state and completely flipping the state. I think Corey could do that.
Yeah.
Time will tell. Appreciate you, friend. Be well.
Thank you, Zeynab.
Happy holidays.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Anytime. Good people. And of course. Hope you're enjoying the conversation. We've got one more topic to talk about, and we know you're going to love it because it's one of our favorite people. But for those of you that are here, and we certainly appreciate it, I don't know what you did. Okay, there it is. Yeah, Jen messing with some stuff. Go to patreon.com/revolution.
You blame me. You blame me for everything.
Because you do. Hey, I saw what you did during the stream. You brought your... All right.
No. Do you know what I was trying to do? No, I'm going to tell you what I was trying to do. So our friend Rachel had pointed out to me that when we that's horrible. Please change that. That's horrible.
Really? That's horrible?
That's horrible.
How's
No,
that?
that's bad too. Stop it. What she pointed out to me is that when we are showing a clip and we pause it, okay, that it sits on that for so long that it would be better if it was inverted while we were talking and the clip was smaller.
Oh,
and
okay.
so, right, I thought one of those would allow that. And that's what I was just trying to test, but it didn't. It wasn't that. So that was my thought, is while we were talking about it to reduce, that was my thought.
Yes. Thank you, Captain Obvious. What a that's a good name. I don't know. 1,000 billionaires is a pretty big club, but compared to 300 million, how about compared to 8 billion? It's a very small club. There's about, I don't know, what is it, like 4,000 billionaires in the world? Yes, it's an insane number when you think about it on the surface, but when you consider how many people are on the planet, well, I don't know, Jen, are you going to run in the Appalachia?
No, I'm not going to challenge Marjorie Taylor Greene up here. That would be silly.
You guys just better hope that I run for office one day, but we've got a lot more work to do. So let's get to our super duper chatters, because we've got a few more since we got started. Give a shout out to Patman67 again from Scotland. You guys need to see a new release movie, Palestine 36. It won't go mainstream, but I'm sure it'll pop up somewhere. It's a beautiful film. I have no doubt if you say so.
And
JG,
if it's good and it means something, it'll probably be suppressed all over the place.
Well, that's for sure. JG with the $10, 50,000 people will die a year due to big BS bill, and probably another 50K a year because of price hikes now. Dems sold Americans out. Yeah, tell me when they haven't. That's all they do.
They were never dealing us in. They were always doing what they're doing.
Marvin Vargas with the $2. Jen, what Kentucky position on weed?
Yeah, I answered him in the chat before. So there is no legalized marijuana is not legal in Kentucky and Tennessee or Georgia, and not even medicinal as far as I'm concerned. But that's where it is. But I'm not moving to Kentucky, but it's not legal here either.
Now, why wouldn't you move to Kentucky?
It's not that I wouldn't move to Kentucky. It's that this location that I'm in just serves me for many reasons in terms of the location being close. I'm closer to my parents. I'm closer to my kids. This is just a good location. Kentucky was lovely.
Let's give a big shout out to David Todd. Thank you so much for becoming a
Yay, David Todd.
I know you've given us super chats. Thank you for making it We've been going on a few dates, and now we're officially in a committed relationship. So thank you for taking the leap and giving us your unconditional. We appreciate you, baby. Willie, always a pleasure. Guys, subscribe to the Willie Bragg Show on YouTube. Thank you for the $5. Mark Levin is an absolute scumbag. That voice of his is like nails on a chalkboard, except nails on a chalkboard's got more melody. Even the sound of it's making me cringe. But yes, I agree. Piano Man, always a pleasure. Thank you for the $10 super sticker. Much appreciated. And JG with the $5. Nick Fuentes said all the great presidents were racist, and Nick owns it. He's correct. All the great presidents were racist? I mean, listen, Jen, you and obviously our good friend Margaret Kimberly would say yes. With rare exception, all the presidents were bigots. So,
no, there are no exceptions. There are no exceptions.
Zaina, thank you so much for becoming a YouTuber.
Zaina,
and appreciate you being.
She's just trying to work her while so she can come back. She can come back anyway, but that's cool.
Well, a great conversation, and thank you very much for your support. It's really awesome. So. One of our favorite people is, of course, Francesca Albanese. And if you guys have been paying attention lately, they're coming at her with everything they've got. They are the Zionazis are trying to ruin her life. And there are two separate articles we're going to share with you. But first, we have a clip to play. And this kind of highlights in so many ways. Was Obama a racist? Now we droned some folks.
Was Obama a racist?
We droned some folks.
Okay. I wouldn't say that Obama himself is racist, but he stands for, represents, and is complicit in a system of racism and white supremacy. And he also rubber stamped that system repeatedly. Yes, we droned some folks. All of those things that are global, it's globally racist in that way. So yeah, I mean, I don't think that if you were to, his personal opinion is that of a racist person. But yes, I believe he is a tool of racist ideology.
I agree. And again, it's just different levels, really. But I have often said that some of our commanders in chiefs over the years, some of them did us better than others. Look, Lincoln freed the slaves, but he had his reasons, and some of his commentary is not great. And while
this is the point. Just because somebody is Black does not mean that they are not on the same team of the oppressor of Black people.
Sure.
Okay, there's lots of names for that, like Jews that used to work for the Nazis, they were called capos. Yeah. So it's a very similar thing. Yeah.
George Soros was a capo. So look, history will write itself as it does. But much like when I talk about Teddy Roosevelt and him having, within a month of his assuming the presidency, Booker T. Washington as a guest of the White House in October of 1901, you go back and read some of the newspaper articles that were written about this dinner that he had. He was very close with Booker T. He was the first American president who truly had relationships with the Black community. And the articles that were written about him, particularly in the South, it's pretty, it shows you how far we've actually come in some respects. Because then they wanted to lynch him, just like they wanted to lynch Booker T. Washington, among other things. But that being said, let's get back to where we were.
Okay.
Francesca Albanese, who might be Black herself, the old joke about Sicilians. If you haven't seen the movie True Romance, you'll understand the reference. But Francesca has been making it her mission to uphold international law. It seems like she's the only person, Jen, who's trying to uphold international law
and Yemen, and Ansar Allah in Yemen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So Francesca is being a target. But where we're going to conclude the conversation this night, guys, is to show you there's the story that is, and then there's the story that the Israelis want you to believe.
Correct.
So here's the clip.
First UN person to be sanctioned.
Le sanzioni americane sono pesantissime, pesantissime.
And the implications are enormous. It's really impairing as a person. It creates a chilling effect around you because anyone who engages with a US sanctioned person risks to be arrested and to be subjected to very heavy fine.
Io sono la madre di una cittadina americana e mio marito lavora per un'organizzazione che è negli Stati Uniti, quindi capite che mi colpiscono al cuore in questo momento. Mia figlia tecnicamente è passibile di arresto e di pene pecuniarie fino ad $1 miliardo per aver preparato per.
I mean, are you fucking kidding me?
Well, that's the way they bully everybody. They bully everybody. First, it's sanctioned. So she's been sanctioned as an individual. So when you're sanctioned, it essentially means that anybody who affiliates with you is then going to get in trouble so that you're basically turned into a pariah. That's what we've been doing to Venezuela. That's what we've done to countries so that any country that trades with them or has any interaction with them will then also be be in our wrath, right? So now that's what they've done to her as a person. It's disgusting.
Got that right.
Ho preparato un caffè o per aver preso la mia colazione. Io sono rientrata in Italia, a Napoli, per ragioni familiari, affitto sempre la macchina, non posso più affittare una macchina perché non ho una carta di credito.
The sanctions are pressure. The United States has been really forceful toward me.
Nessuna banca può aprirmi un conto corrente perché senza il rischio di incorrere in sanzioni secondarie imposte dalla legge americana e durano in perpetuità.
Io sono trattata quasi alla stregua di Osama Bin Laden, soffro grandissime limitazioni e trovo orribile.
I don't understand what it is she's expected to do different that would release those sanctions. Like, is there some sort of demand? Because I don't understand from where I'm sitting, she's just doing her job for the United Nations. That's what she's doing. So she's doing her job that she's being sanctioned for. And so there's no way for her to not be sanctioned. I don't know what it is they would expect her to do at this point to eliminate that or relieve the stress of that. Not that she would.
We're going to first read the article from Jacobin, and then we're going to show you what the Zionazis think. Francesca Albanese and the Palestinian fight for survival. The U.S. sanctions against Francesca Albanese are testament to her courage, speaking up for the Palestinians. If international law lies buried underneath the rubble of Gaza, truth tellers like Albanese have why can't I say that word? Implicably? Implicably? Is that how you say it?
No, it looks like implacably, but I don't know what that, I mean.
Okay, well, right. Okay.
Implacably.
I said implacably.
Implacably? I don't know.
Defended basic universalist principles. Colin, thank you. Keep going. This July 9, the Trump administration targeted Francesca Albanese for sanctions. Executive Order 14203 listed the 48-year-old UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights in the Palestinian territories occupied by Israel as a specially designated national, thereby forbidding U.S. citizens and companies to have any dealings with her. Secretary of State Marco Rubio explained Albanese's campaign of political and economic warfare against the U.S. and Israel will no longer be tolerated. What economic warfare did she exactly pose against the U.S.? Or is it that because she goes after Israel, as you like to say, we are one and the same? You attack Israel, you're attacking the United States, at least in accordance with the neocons anyway.
I guess they're trying to make it be like somehow what she's done has had economic impact on Ziohel. And so therefore this is basically mutual. It's mutual. It's reciprocal rather. So you're gonna do things that are imposing economic harm on our little terrorist appendage. So we're gonna do something to you that causes economic harm. That's what it is. It's like economic warfare, but against an individual instead of a nation state.
Thanks, Lippy. So implacably means in a way that cannot be appeased, soothed, or changed.
There you go.
That same month, the 8th edition of Albanese's 2023 book, JUSTIFIES, appeared, only available in Italian. Only in Italian. It presents her indictment of the ongoing Israeli war crimes in Gaza leading up to the Hamas attack on October 7th, 2023. Its title comes from a famous 1898 newspaper article by the French novelist Émile Zola. He called for the truth above all in the case of the Jewish army captain Alfred Dreyfus, who had been falsely accused of treason. Albanese makes the same demand for the truth about today's genocide in Gaza. Trained in international law and human rights at the University of Pisa and the decolonist seedbed of London School of Oriental and African Studies, Albanese lived in Palestine from 2010 to 2012. She has long written extensively on the Israel-Palestine question, most notably Palestine refugees and international law, together with Lex Teckenberg. The appointment under the UN Special Rapporteur position in May of 22 brought her into daily contact with the worsening situation in Gaza. She has exceptional opportunities to gain insight into the crises leading up to October 7th. Again, the Zionists will have you believe that everything started on October 7th. Could you please continue, Jen?
In JUSTIFIES, Albanese intelligently frames the Gaza war in its proper historical context, going back to the Balfour Declaration of November 1917, when the British government announced its support of a national home for the Jewish people. She focuses on the period beginning in 1948 with Israel's founding for the Palestinians, the Nakba, or their catastrophe. Another chronological focal point concerns Israel's occupation of the Palestinian territories beginning in 1967. Israel's 16-year blockade of Gaza also comes in for extended analysis as background for the current war. So essentially, she tells the entire history. That's what this is. I don't think we need to necessarily read the details of all of these points she makes. This is the reason she's being penalized, is for reporting proper history.
Scroll down one more paragraph, Colin. Avoiding the term terrorism because of its politically charged biases, Albanese evaluates the events of October 7th according to the international law enshrined in conventions adopted at Geneva and The Hague. On that basis, she condemns Hamas for slaughtering innocent non-combatants and taking civilian hostages. She repeats these charges several times in the book. By the same legal standards, Israel's indiscriminate military attacks against the defenseless Palestinian civilian population in Gaza also constitute war crimes. And then some. Hamas's crimes should have been prosecuted by an independent tribunal, not punished by unleashing Israeli firepower against civilians. Now, again, part of the reason I disregard this commentary is because I'm convinced beyond any doubt that October 7th was a pre-planned attack.
Oh, yeah.
Netanyahu had everything to do with it. He funded Hamas. He probably had a coordinated effort to make sure that the attack by Hamas led to the political. Remember, his political situation in the Knesset is very reminiscent of what you saw at the top of the show. It's not good. And it certainly wasn't good prior to October 7th.
No.
So to suggest that there was something sinister going on here would be an understatement. Something is going on here, and it's not good.
No, but also I think it's the only real failure that he had on October 7th was that they didn't kill all their own people, because that's where it really went wrong for them, is that the Hamas, the freedom fighters, were able to get hostages. And that was really what the Hannibal Directive was supposed to solve, because they shouldn't have had any hostages to have to deal with. And that's where he went wrong.
Moreover, immediately following the Hamas attack, Israel's then defense minister, Yoav Gallant, declared that essential humanitarian aid would be cut off. This meant no electricity, food, gasoline, and water for Gazans, Palestinians. Israel had found itself combating human animals, Gallant declared, and would respond accordingly. She accused captures the Palestinians dehumanizing existence under Israeli rule, also in the West Bank and East Jerusalem. They suffered varying degrees of torment by the government and vicious colonizers in the Israeli settlements. She quotes UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, Hamas's deep depredations did not come from nothing. 56 years of merciless occupation paved the way for October 7th. Gutierrez, too, condemned Hamas for its crimes against innocent civilians, but no one should have been surprised by the inevitable explosion of resentment arising from Israel's illegal occupation and its nightmare system of military checkpoints. That is a good place to conclude what is Jacobin's version of why Israel is coming after Francesca Albanese with everything they have to ruin her life without just outright assassinating her, which I'm sure they would love to do, but there is too much attention on her that if she was assassinated, there would be no doubt as to who did it, and that would be an international incident that they would not be able to survive.
I don't know. At this point, I feel like they're immortal, but yeah, I think that was an interesting assessment. So Jacobin is essentially saying, okay, they're going after her for her doing her job. They're going after her for her pointing out actual historic facts and truth. So everybody remember that. That's story number one. Okay, so now let's see version number two of why Francesca Albanese is being sanctioned.
From David May and Ben Cohen of the National Review, 50 years of gaslighting Israel at the UN. 5 decades after its creation, it's long past time for the Committee of the Exercise of the Inalienable Rights of the Palestinian People to be shut down.
Right. They just want to shut down that whole concept. We're not even going to have a UN committee dealing with Palestinians. We're not even going to address. They don't even get that. They don't even deserve to be addressed. We're going to shut that down.
Francesca Albanese is a fervent anti-Zionist. Bravo. Not coincidentally, she's also the UN Special Rapporteur dedicated to advancing false allegations against Israel.
Isn't that an interesting way of phrasing that she's the UN Special Rapporteur for Palestine? Like literally, that's what her job exists to report about what's happening in Palestine. That's the whole point of her existence for the UN. So they just want to shut down that whole department because the Palestinians obviously don't need any sort of representation.
Albanese recently delivered a speech that would have been rapturously received by the Columbia University chapter of Students for Justice in Palestine. Her defamatory statements about Israel were uttered at an October 30 event blessed by the UN and officially convened by a little-known body at the UN. Keep in mind, guys, both of these articles dropped today. The Committee on the Exercise of the Inalienable Rights of the Palestinian People.
Think about that, though. How that, to be against that. So you're against a committee that's giving to support the inalienable rights, meaning like your rights being an existing human on this planet, that the Palestinian people should have that committee. Like it's crazy.
Albanese, who is sanctioned by the U.S. for pushing false war crime charges against American and Israeli citizens, yeah, totally false, told the CEIRPP that Hamas's actions in Gaza constitute Palestinian self-defense. Yeah, they do. She accused Israel of practicing apartheid and waging a genocide.
I love how they have those words in
all
quotes. It's in quotes. Apartheid in quotes, genocide in quotes.
She stressed her conviction that the Palestinians, like South Africans, were and are the victims of European settler colonialism. Please stop me when you don't want to tell the truth anymore.
She stressed her conviction. Like it's her opinion. That's like the person the other day that said I had my brand of socialism when I was just giving the definition of it. This isn't her conviction. This is just facts. That's just hilarious.
With Palestinians serving as guinea pigs in an experiment that keeps on going. Yes.
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 That's exactly what it is. Take the next one, please. Scroll column.
All right. This is hilarious. She complained that Arab states from Iraq to Libya to Lebanon to Syria are on their knees and insisted that we are witnessing the realization of greater Israel on our watch, a nod to the long discredited belief in the Arab world that Israel aims to conquer all the territory from the Nile to the Euphrates rivers. Then why would they be in Lebanon, Syria, Iraq right now? Like, why would they be doing those things if there was no plan for the greater Israel? Which is funny because do you see what they're saying? It's from the Nile to the Euphrates. That sounds familiar. That sounds like something very familiar to me. I don't know exactly what that is. This gaslighting of Israel, in which no contention is too wild if it contributes to the depiction of the Jewish state as the world's worst human rights abuser, has been CEIRPP's, which is the Committee for the Palestinian, let's just call that Palestinian Human Rights Group in the UN, sole purpose since it was created by the UN General Assembly 50 years ago. So in other words, after the Zionist state completely nakbud, tormented, tortured, and exiled the people, several years later, the UN decided maybe we should have a committee about the rights of those people that we just totally destroyed. Maybe we should have a committee about that. But that's even a bridge too far. We can't have that. Passed on the same day, the General Assembly approved perhaps the most infamous resolution in its history, Resolution 3379, which equated Zionism, the national liberation movement of the Jewish people, with racism.
50 years ago.
Right.
Exactly.
But it's interesting. So that's the resolution that equated Zionism with racism. No, Zionism is equated with racism because it's racist. It didn't need a resolution for that. It just does that all on its own. Okay. Chaim Herzog, the late Israeli ambassador to the United Nations, demonstratively tore up the resolution while standing at the General Assembly podium in New York. The late Daniel Patrick Moynihan, then the U.S. ambassador to the UN, charged that a great evil has been loosed upon the world. The abomination of anti-Semitism has been giving the appearance of international sanction.
Can I just give a big fuck you to Daniel? How to give a big fuck you to Daniel Patrick Moynihan? You're a shame to your people. I hope you understand it, and I hope you heard me when I said it.
And Piano Man's correct. Zionism is both racist and anti-Semitic. I'd like to put that out. It's both of those things. But to say that Zionism is not like that doesn't make any sense anyhow.
Nevertheless, thanks to pressure from the Soviet Union, those Red Army shitheads, whose anti-Zionist foreign policy was matched by its domestic persecution of Jews. Man, like you said, how do you know they're lying, Jen?
Can you believe this article is current and came out like this same
today? It came out today.
It's insane.
Scroll down.
This is how delusional, though. This is the level of, this is the disconnect. This is this total, we are in so different information silos that this is a really good example of how absurd this is. So anybody who would just be reading this, let's say hypothetically, can you imagine that view of the world?
Well, this is a supremacist view of the world, period.
Which is why it's funny. Yeah. They're calling it ridiculous.
Thanks this time to the U.S. unrivaled international influence at the end of the Cold War, it was rescinded with a grudging one-line resolution. But the UN still behaves as though the Zionism is racism resolution remains on the books. Great. The continued existence of Palestinian rights, designed to institutionalize that shameful resolution and give it teeth, is proof of that.
How dare they think Palestinians should have a committee for their self-determination and their rights?
You know, I'm convinced that Shapiro wrote this and Ben Cohen is his alias. He scribbled all this together. The UN,
Josh Shapiro or Ben Shapiro?
Ben Shapiro. Well, hey, listen, Josh
Don't
Shapiro,
say his name again, or you know what's gonna. If you say it 3 times, it's gonna be like Beetlejuice. So if when his name is said 3 times is when I got to play the thing. So I'm just letting you know.
Well, Josh Shapiro, according to the New York Times, is the future of the Democratic Party. Not so.
Oh yes.
As far as the Democratic Party is concerned, yes, I would agree, because Zoran Mamdani is not the future of the Democrats. No matter how much. No matter how much people who think you can still save the Democratic Party want it to be that way, it's not going to be that way.
Oh, no. Josh Shapiro is the future of the party as it goes down the toilet. I agree completely.
Yeah, please let it be. Since Hamas atrocities in southern Israel on October 7th and the subsequent war, and it's not a war, in Gaza, Palestinian Rights has provided a UN platform for figures like Albanese who ignore, downplay, or even deny the extent of the horrors committed on that dark day. Forget the probably 1 million dead Palestinians as a result.
What about every dark day prior? Every dark day prior to October 7th from the Nakba, from the original Nakba.
Scroll, Colin. 50 years after its creation, it's long past time for the U.S. and the allies to shut down
Palestinian rights.
Yeah. This can be done by persuading member states to resign from its ranks, follow the examples of Hungary, Romania, and Ukraine. Gee, what do those 3 countries have in common? All of whom quit. And by blocking approval of the UN's budget until CEIRPP is no more.
Until there are no more Palestinian rights.
Yeah.
That's a perfect thing. Why? Yes, you're talking about the whole existence of a committee whose sole purpose is to protect Palestinian rights. So I think it's fair to call it that.
Such an outcome would help end the UN's discrimination against Israel, as well as against the many stateless persecuted peoples from Kurdistan to Tibet who are not deemed worthy enough to have a UN committee advocating their inalienable rights.
Okay, wait. So you're telling me that they give a shit about the Kurds?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, yes. I'm so sure that they care about the Kurds because that's always been top of their mind priority, as opposed to, I don't know, not dividing Kurdistan into 1,000 different places to weaken it so that you could control the entire region on behalf of the creation of greater Israel. But yes, tell me you're concerned with the Kurds.
It would help eliminate the UN's parallel universe in which Israeli guilt and Palestinian rights are limitless. And it would underline that any vision of the Middle East that doesn't include a secure Israel living in peace with its Arab neighbors, again, Arab.
That alone means you don't want peace. So,
including the Palestinians, belongs in the trash can of history. No, your ideology and everything you stand for not belongs, will be in the dustbin of history.
Absolutely.
And it's coming a lot sooner than you think. We want to thank you guys one more time for being here this evening. We do have a few more super chats to get to before we get out of here. A big shout out to Saul Duarte with the $5. Duarte. If our leadership is suggesting 50-year mortgages, our country needs a total change. No, 50-year mortgages, it's a great idea. You could buy a house by the time you're 38, and then you could pay it off by the time you're 88. Doesn't it sound great?
What if we recommend 50-year mortgages to the Zios buying property in South Florida? See how that'll work for you in 50 years.
Yeah, right. Oh, get the welcome, Matt. I like tacos. Thank you for listen. You know what we should do on behalf of this wonderful contribution of 20 Revolutionary Change memberships? We both have to have tacos tomorrow, and it is Taco Tuesday. So.
I'll somehow manage that. I saw somebody say something in here. Where is did they miss Miko? We didn't. We played a clip from Miko. We talked about something that he discussed that we thought was really relevant. He wasn't on the show, but we will get him back on again soon.
Indeed. Chip, great to see you. Thank you for the $5.
Hi, Chip.
The Balfour Declaration only said His Majesty views with favor. It was just a sympathy card with no force or effect. Interesting. JG with the $2. If Palestinian says river to the sea, that's wrong. Well, according to the article, yes, but we all know it's right. And one more time, thank you so much, Piano Man, for another $10 super sticker. Smash that like button, share, subscribe, do all those things that we ask you to do.
You need a cute puppy video? Okay, look. Anybody wanting cute puppy videos, I understand, okay? I highly recommend Punch Up Pod. Punch Up Pod is on Sundays, Wednesdays, and After Us on Thursdays, and they show really cute puppy videos. We do not have puppy videos. I have an actual dog, but she's pouting.
Well, now she gets all the attention that she could ever need because you're about to flee. Smash that like button, share, subscribe, do all those things we ask you to do. We love you all. We will see you Thursday, and
Free Palestine.
Good night, guys.